Chapter 1301 to 1325. Supremacy Games. 1301 Unbridgeable Technological Difference. Just like his subordinate stated, it took them almost no time to reach Gorana's territory. The moment they got near it, the spaceship's AI exited the speed light mode, allowing them finally to see their surroundings. What the hell? Malgrath and his subordinates were left stunned out of their minds the instant they looked around them and saw thousands of spaceships much bigger than theirs and even motherships that made them seem like a spark of dust. Chills coursed down Malgrath's spine as his murderous intent died off instantly at this overbearing and honestly freakish scene. Alas, before he or his subordinates could even comprehend the F***ed situation they put themselves in, all of the nearby spaceships turned their weapons towards their directions and activated them, causing the space to be filled with millions of illuminating colorful stars. This wasn't even the worst part. My lord. We have lost control over the spaceship's systems. His subordinate cried out loud as he watched the monitors turn completely black and silent. We have been hacked. What do you mean hacked? What the F***ck does hacked even mean? Just get us out of here. Malgrath shouted back. We can't. Our systems aren't in our command anymore. Before his subordinate could finish his statement, all of the monitors were turned on simultaneously, showing the face of Commander Nethrail. Demons, you have 30 seconds to surrender before we erase your spaceship from existence. Commander Nethrail spoke coldly. His voice was translated into the language of the demons as the Alliance had already helped Queen AI learn it. My lord, they don't look like the joking type. One of the demons gulped a mouthful at the notion of all of those plasma weapons firing at them simultaneously. Usually, demons weren't scared of death, but it was different this time around as they were situated in the vacuum of space, where not an ounce of evil energy was nearby. F***ck. 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 I was sent on a suicidal mission. Malgrath also realized that his situation wasn't pleasant one bit. I have to buy time somehow. The first thing Malgrath did was establish a connection with Prince Beelzebub and update him on their screwed-up situation as fast as possible. How powerful are they? Prince Beelzebub frowned. See for yourself. Malgrath pulled a small demonic flesh statue the size of a Barbie doll and placed it in front of him. It resembled Prince Beelzebub greatly. Prince Beelzebub connected his consciousness with the demonic statue and looked around him, finding out that his subordinate didn't oversell their dilemma one bit. 15 seconds. Commander Nethrail counted down. I guess we have met a much tougher nut to crack this time. Prince Beelzebub narrowed his eyes coldly. Listen to me, voice your surrender, and allow them to capture you. Don't do anything else, I will send down an incarnation on the demonic statue to speak with them. As you command. Malgrath was more than pleased with this order as his death would be postponed. 5 seconds. Enough. We surrender, just lower your damn weapons already. Malgrath called out loud with an irritated tone. You don't make the calls, we do. Commander Nethrail replied indifferently, we will be sending a small aircraft in your direction, give it access to your spaceship, and pick up the bracelets inside of it. I will give you further instructions when you finish. Shaikh. Out LTSTVL on novel/bin.cm. Fine. Although Malgrath had no clue what they were planning for him and his squad, he could only comply. A few minutes later, all the demons in the spaceship could be seen wearing AP bracelets on their wrists. Is this some sort of an imprisonment cuff? Malgrath murmured as he waved his wrist around. I don't feel anything different. Before he could think too much about it, Commander Nethrail gave them instructions to bind their consciousness with Queen AI. The moment they logged into the UVR and accessed the White Room, all of them shared panicked expressions. Where the F***ck am I? Are those invaders capable of spatial teleportation through a mere bracelet? Malgrath shivered at the mere thought. Unfortunately for him, those AP bracelets were created for the sake of prisoners, which meant the moment they logged in, Queen AI linked their consciousness with her straightway without their consent. In addition, she didn't bother explaining anything about the UVR or the AP bracelets as she did with the others. To make matters worse, she took away their logout condition, which implied that their consciousness was imprisoned inside the White Room until the SG Alliance allowed them to leave. Bring them to their cells and prepare for the interrogation. Felix ordered from the shadows as he watched those demons banging the walls of the White Room and using whatever they could to escape it. Malgrath. What happened to you? Malgrath? Are you ignoring me, you prick? Meanwhile, Prince Beelzebub was shouting furiously from his throne but no one was there to respond. He had no clue that the moment a consciousness entered the UVR, it got disconnected from the real world. A few minutes later, the demon spaceship was towed inside the mothership with the demons still inside. Although those demons were inside the UVR and could be considered sitting ducks, the troops still had the appropriate caution in handling them. Meanwhile, Malgrath and his squad had their white rooms changed into interrogation rooms and they were forced to sit in chairs without the ability to move an inch. Who the hell are we dealing with? Did we finally anger the gods? Malgrath would be lying if he said that he was not scared shitless from everything happening to him. Who could blame him? Without proper explanation, anyone would assume that this was God's work since it was just so real. With a flash of light, Felix appeared in front of Malgrath with different facial features as he did not want to expose that he resembled Lucifer so soon. Felix pulled a chair in front of Malgrath and sat on it with a nonchalant expression. Who or why? Arg. Before his question could be completed, Malgrath cried out loud in agony as his body was completely engulfed in electricity. How? Ugh. Malgrath found it hard to believe that electricity could put him in such agonizing pain as his physical body was extremely tough and should have nullified it. Unbeknownst to him, Felix had full control over his body. He could give him immunities and at the same time make his pain nerve sensitivity off the roof with a mere thought. It was like he had the powers of Queen AI. Such powerful access was given to only the 10 rulers as it could be abused quite easily. A couple of moments later, Felix got rid of the electricity and said, Don't talk again until you are addressed. Malgrath could only growl and stare at him murderously, but he still remained quiet. He understood that his life wasn't in his hands anymore and it was best to play ball. What's your name? Malgrath. Did Beelzebub send you to spy on us? Yes. How did he find out about us in the first place? Through the destruction of the harvesters. Be precise and don't bother to lie. Felix warned calmly. Prince Beelzebub can connect his consciousness with his harvesters. Malgrath answered truthfully, we have one in our spaceship if you want to directly speak with him. Malgrath cared more about his life than anything else, so he felt it was better to link his lord with Felix and leave him alone. Alas, that wasn't happening anytime soon. How do we talk to him? He can send down a spiritual incarnation. He answered. The moment he uttered so, everyone received a report about Prince Beelzebub's demonic image appearing inside the imprisonment cell of the demons. Felix switched his main focus to his clone and saw Prince Beelzebub's hideous gigantic body spawning from a tiny demonic statue. He was looking down on the crewman who fell on the ground from sheer terror without him needing to do anything. Bring me your leader. Prince Beelzebub ordered coldly. 1302 Unbridgeable technological differences. 2. Commander, handle it. Felix ordered from the cockpit. He had no plans of showing himself to Prince Beelzebub since he would figure out that he wasn't Lucifer with a single glance. Felix had many plans to use the uncanny resemblance to dupe some demons. In a few minutes at best, Commander Netheriel arrived at the locked-out scene. Even though Prince Beelzebub hadn't attacked anyone, they were still ordered to clear the area. I am here. Commander Netheriel stood in front of Prince Beelzebub with his chest upright and shoulders straight. He kept staring right into the eyes of Prince Beelzebub without an ounce of fear or distress. As the commander of one of the biggest fleets in the SG Alliance, he was more than competent to handle anyone before him. Since you are clearly outsiders, I will give you the benefit of not knowing my name, and not straightaway eliminate you. Prince Beelzebub spoke with an indifferent tone, but I won't repeat myself. Free my subordinates and surrender while I am still asking nicely. Prince Beelzebub, the seventh-born prince, and ruler of the smallest and weakest demon realm. You have lost many territories to other princes and are desperate to reclaim them back for the sake of stealing the Demon King's throne. You are wicked, greedy, and rule your demon realm with an iron fist. Most importantly, you are immensely envious of your brother's great demon armies. Commander Netheriel narrated while reading from a holographic screen, not caring about Prince Beelzebub's expression turning nastier and nastier. You are also. Enough. Prince Beelzebub roared angrily. The most updated NVELs are published on n0velj.n.co/m. How do they already know so much? Did those bastards cough up everything as soon as they were caught? Unbeknownst to Prince Beelzebub, the demons weren't really required to speak as Queen AI could easily invade their memories in the UVR as long as she was permitted. Felix wasn't just interrogating Malgrath for new information but to confirm the memories they had extracted from them and create a sheet filled with filtered useful information. Commander Netheriel closed the holographic screen and looked at him in the eyes with a composed expression. You see, we do know you and we still don't care. Your territory has already been marked, and this means that 1 ton will belong to us whether peacefully or forcefully. Commander Netheriel asked with a serious tone, how do you want it to be? The SG Lines had no plans to get Prince Beelzebub on their side or any other prince. As long as they needed purities to survive, they would be forever their archenemies, and the SG Lines simply didn't want to waste their time on needless chatter. Even the peaceful conquest wasn't really an option and they planned to exterminate all demons in sight. I will be waiting for you then. It's been a while since I have tasted some fresh meat. Prince Beelzebub licked his lips into a hungry hyena before disappearing back into the demonic statue. Crack. The demonic statue turned black and then broke into fragments moments after. He didn't even bother to ask for his subordinates. Queen Allura scoffed, they really have no loyalty to each other whatsoever. She still thought highly of Prince Beelzebub as what happened next wasn't to anyone's expectation. No. My lord. Please don't do it. Please. I haven't said anything to them. Malgrath suddenly began beseeching with a frantic look while trying his best to escape from the interrogation chair. His abrupt switch in attitude took Felix by surprise as he was just hearing him spill beans about his lord like he was paid handsomely. Save me. Save me. He is voiding the demon contract. Alas, before Felix could react to his cry for help, Malgrath let out an ear-piercing squeal before he turned into light particles. This scene happened to the rest of the demons captured, leaving everyone with mouth agape in disbelief. Whew, he really killed off his subordinates without an ounce of hesitation. Asna remarked with a surprised tone, a cold-blooded demon indeed. I expected him to do something like this, but not this quickly. Felix uttered, he didn't even bother to negotiate their release. The moment Felix heard from Queen Danica that the authoritative demons had the option to use the demon contract to kill their subordinates, he already foresaw this scene happening. Fortunately, we already have gotten everything that we needed. Felix shrugged his shoulders. The demons' memories were enough to give them the big picture about the 7th demon realm, though, it would take some time to filter the useful from the useless without those demons. Belphegor, Floros, Moloch, Sabnok, the outsiders have declared war on us and are preparing to invade our territory. Since they are at Revria N1, they will most likely target the nearest solar systems to them. Prince Beelzebub connected his consciousness with his other authoritative demons and ordered, take the Space Eaters and open wormholes to those solar systems to back up our outposts and farms. We cannot let them gain another inch of territory even if it meant using Planet Eaters, understood? How fun. On it. Won't the other princes find out about this with us making such a big movement? It does not matter anymore. Prince Beelzebub remarked with a cold tone, our priority is to block the invasion and retaliate before my brothers could make their move. Alright, what about Malgrath? Malgrath is gone. He got caught like an idiot, if you don't want to suffer the same fate as him, don't disappoint me. Prince Beelzebub threatened. This time no one replied to him but his message was received loud and clear. The troops have already arrived at their locations and have spotted many civilized planets with demons and non-demons. Do we order the attack? Commander Netheriel requested permission. We're still far from the capital planet of Prince Beelzebub, so just do as you see fit. Felix gave complete control to Commander Netheriel as he knew that he was capable enough to lead the invasions without needing him over his head. Felix placed one foot above the other in the cockpit and rested his head on his hands while having the holographic screens of the invasion in front of him. Since he had a mere clone around, he couldn't offer much help even if he wanted. I wonder where did they get those spaceships from? Felix mumbled as he drank tea from a cup. He was referring to the demons' spaceships, which had just gotten engaged by the Alliance's fleets near the most populated planets in those solar systems. It was a pure massacre as those spaceships were just too outdated, making them vulnerable to all types of attacks from the Alliance's fleets. Queen, can you forward the memories related to those spaceships? Felix requested. As you wish. Queen AI displayed holograms to the side showing memories of Malgrath and his subordinates dealing with those spaceships and their builders. As he watched more memories, he understood more about the builders. Horites race, what an interesting species. Felix remarked with a look of intrigue as he eyed giant rocky-skinned humanoid creatures. Based on the memories, this race was immune to almost all elements and mental attacks, making them one of the most impossible-to-kill races in the universe. However, their offensive powers were absolutely dog-sh**t as they could neither manipulate elements nor possessed physical prowess capable of breaking mountains. All they had was their indestructible rocky skins and a good brain on top of their shoulders. Their intelligence was more or less similar to humans, allowing them to focus wholeheartedly on technological advancement and reach those new heights. Since their bodies were unbreakable, it allowed them to feel safe, unlike the humans who had to do everything to protect themselves just from the beast's attacks. Unfortunately, they weren't immune to the evil energy corruption, which caused their empire to fall apart during the high day of the demons' invasions. What was left of their race were slaves spread across the entire 7 demon realms as they were too important for the demons to devour their purities. Alas, their technological advancements stood no chance against the Skallians' forces, causing all of those planets to fall. In no time under the Alliance's rulership. As for the demonic cities on those planets, all of them were nuked by judgment white beams from space. In less than a few hours, all populated demonic planets in 10 solar systems were invaded successfully and were now being cleared out from the runaway demons by using mass destruction weapons. All of this happened while Prince Beelzebub's 4 authoritative demons were still preparing the reinforcement to protect those solar systems. When the news reached Prince Beelzebub, he was left with a frozen expression, a heart beating out of his chest, and most importantly, a never-felt-before terror rising from his soul. Everything happened so fast, his pride and confidence from before weren't even given time to slowly die down, they got absolutely shattered by the first taste of the Alliance's advanced weapons. How can there be a background this powerful and hidden for such a long time? Am I really going to lose my territories this easily? Prince Beelzebub refused to believe that he had just lost more than 20% of his sacred territory in a couple of hours. This speed was just too frightening as even the other princes struggled to take away territories from him. Those F***ers are the real deal. Prince Beelzebub finally woke up from his dream world and realized that there was absolutely no way he was going to protect his territory alone, don't even mention retaliating with an invasion of his own. So, without any more secrecy and greed, he swiftly brought out 6 small demonic flesh figures and made them hover in front of him. Then, he connected his consciousness with them all and called out loud, "Brothers! We're in big F***ing trouble. Our demon realms are being invaded and we need to present a united front." 1303 The 7 demon princes. The 5 small demonic figures, still and silent for a very long time, started to stir. The atmosphere surrounding them began to tremble while the sulfur and rotting flesh stench filled the air. In less than a split second, 5 demonic incarnations emerged from the statues and towered over the surrounding scenery. The first demon had eyes that shone with an infernal light and were coated in thick, matted fur. A mess of tentacles and tendrils, each ending in a razor-sharp stinger, made up the second demon. The bones of the third demon were twisted and deformed into hideous shapes, making it a skeleton monstrosity. It appeared to emit an atmosphere of decay and death as it held a large scythe in one of its bony hands. The fourth demon was a gigantic behemoth with massive muscles vibrating beneath its scaly skin. It appeared impervious to any attack and screamed a challenge to anyone who dared stand in its way. Last but not least, the fifth demon was a living shadow, its form flickering and shifting as if it were made of smoke. Its eyes glowed like hot coals as it darted around. Only one demonic statue remained silent and it belonged to none other than Lucifer. "For you to seek our help, they must be tough," Prince Belphegor uttered with an indifferent tone. He was the gigantic behemoth. "I am not seeking anyone's help." Prince Beelzebub scoffed. "I have made a connection with those bastards and they made their opinion clear that there will be no peace with our demon realms. So, if I went down, you will be next. Show us." Prince Abaddon spoke lazily as his shadowy form kept flickering once in a while. "Fine." Prince Beelzebub knew that his brothers had absolutely zero trust in each other's words and they only believed their eyes. He placed a small demonic statue that resembled him in front of them and then he forwarded the desired memories to the statue. Next, he gave access to his brothers to see those memories by connecting their consciousness with the demonic statue. In a couple of minutes, the 5 princes opened their eyes again and looked at each other with serious expressions. "I never thought that technological weapons could reach this height." Prince Satan uttered with a hardened look. His infernal red eyes reflected the massacre of Prince Beelzebub's people. "They can level cities from outer space and turn our spaceships against us somehow. This is really bad." The tentacled demon Prince Asmodeus uttered. "We won't be able to contest against them in outer space and stop them from erasing our main cities and massacring most of the demons." All of them were smart enough to realize the true danger their demon race was suddenly put in and if they didn't act faster to protect themselves, they would be left with nothing. "That's what I have been telling you. I have already lost 20% of my territories in a few hours and they are still going deeper. I need you to send reinforcements as soon as possible before they get to my capital's planet. It's useless to send spaceships as we will be merely giving them free assistance." Prince Mammon suggested while pointing his bony finger up. "We have to use our bioweapons to fight them and possibly even get ourselves involved." For him to share the same name as Councilman Mammon of the Void Nation, one could wonder how were their names gotten when they were born out of void and evil energy. "Do we really have to get involved personally?" Abaddon asked with a tiresome look. "For them to have such advanced technology, they must not be too gifted in the physical department just like the Horites race." Prince Mammon stressed. "So, we just need to take their leaders down up close and the victory will be ours." "What about Lucifer? We are in crisis mode and he still refuses to show up." Prince Belphegor snorted. "Demon King," he said. "It's best that he doesn't show up." Prince Asmodeus remarked with a crafty smile. we can use this war to truly justify overthrowing him and turning his own people on him. If a king still doesn't show up even during a war, what rights does he have on the crown? The 6 princes were fighting over stealing the crown from Lucifer, but he was still considered the demon king even though he didn't show himself for hundreds of thousands of years now. But, now that they were in a crisis mode, and if he still prioritized worshipping the demon god in front of the darkness well instead of offering a hand, even his contracted demons would turn against him. That was more than possible, as the demon contract had one thing on the lesser demon's side, getting taken care of in terms of food. His generals were carrying over his duties by keeping everyone fed and happy, but the moment their rationality starts getting threatened during this war, they wouldn't hesitate to use the chance to break the contract and jump to our ships. Prince Mammon grinned greedily. A demon realm without demons is nothing but a free territory for grabs. Hey! Focus, you pricks! Prince Beelzebub said with an irritated tone, my territory is getting run over at the speed of light, my people's cries are resounding in my ears each second. We need to move now. While he also liked their strategy to deal with Lucifer's situation, he wasn't in the right position to feel too excited about it. Knowing that it wasn't good for them to lose Prince Beelzebub's territory since it was currently the buffer between them and their territories, they refocused on the war's strategy. While the 6 princes were plotting to deal with the Skallians' invasion, their demon king Lucifer could be seen in a sitting position in the midst of the vast expanse of outer space. He wore black leather attire, his crimson hair cascading down his shoulders. The stars shimmered around him, casting a soft glow on his grayish skin. Queen Danika's picture did Lucifer justice, as he truly was cut from the same mold as Felix. It was like they were twins separated from birth. Before him, there was a massive pitch-black rift, a tear in the fabric of space itself. The rift seemed to pulsate and vibrate with otherworldly energy as if it were a living thing. The edges of the rift were jagged and uneven as if it had been ripped open by an incredible force. Lucifer gazed into the abyss, his piercing yellow eyes glinting with a mixture of reverence and devotion. Son, the destined day is fast approaching, your other half has taken his first step to connect with you. An enchanting angelic voice echoed inside Lucifer's mind akin to celestial bells. The voice seemed to have come from deep within the void rift, but nothing could be seen inside it. I have been preparing for this moment my entire life. I will not let you down. Lucifer promised with an assured tone. Good, don't get hasty, as he has come over here with just a clone. I understand, I will remain hidden and patient until he comes here with his real form. I have already been waiting far too long. Lucifer said with glitter in his eyes. Fint the new st ovals on n//felbin.com. I understand, I will remain hidden and patient until he comes here with his real form. I have already been waiting far too long. Lucifer said with glitter in his eyes. Good, I will rest now, I will be waiting for the good news. Just like that, the angelic voice faded away from Lucifer's mind. No one knew if he had gone insane and was just talking to himself or if he was truly speaking with his mother. Even the 6 princes had no idea about any of this, as they assumed that Lucifer was merely wasting his time staring at an empty rift. Regardless of what others thought about him, Lucifer seemed to have a burning fire in his eyes at the notion of the destined day being just around the corner. I will finally be complete and rule over this universe. My time has come at last and nothing is going to stop me. Lucifer spoke under his breath with a sinister smile. Unbeknownst to him, his mother was watching him from within the void rift with 2 sets of enchanting pink eyes. The stage is getting prepared slow and steady, my part of the plan is nearing its end. 1304 The battle for Tartarus. A couple of days later. The Skallians' forces began to slow down their invasion as they were spreading their fleets way too thin. However, the end results were worth a celebration, as more than 60% of the 7th demon realm Tartarus had been conquered. This translated to tens of enslaved races being saved and an unfathomable number of lesser demons receiving their ending. Those results made Prince Beelzebub absolutely infuriated, but he could do nothing but watch from his capital. He knew that the Skallians' forces would reach his capital sooner and later. His brother's plan was to gather their forces near it in an attempt to secure their first victory and turn the battle around. The SG Lions knew that the capital wouldn't be easy to take down due to Prince Beelzebub's existence, so they were smart enough to slow down their invasion and gather most of their troops to launch a singular unstoppable attack. Commander Nethriel, we will leave it to you. Queen Alfreda said with a stern tone. She was in a meeting with the other leaders and Commander Nethriel, discussing the plan to conquer Tartarus capital and proclaim the entire 7th demon realm as the Skallians' territory. Victory is ours. Commander Nethriel assured with a confident tone before taking off. I still think we should just use the planet destroyer weapon on the capital. High Chieftain Lakaka said, the planet must be packed with demons and evil energy. Even if we won, no one will dare to step in it. It's best to keep our planet destroyer weapons as hidden as possible. Queen Allura shook her head. We still have 6 more demon realms and one is tougher than the other. She is right, if the weapon was exposed, the princes might use whatever it takes to destroy it. While the demons didn't seem to be on par with the Skallians' forces, it was still better to be cautious since the 7 princes had yet to even show themselves. A few more days later, the Skallians' spread out forces began to gather up near planet Gorena. With the space worms being available, there was no need to fly straight to the capital planet when they could open multiple wormholes and surrender the planet from multiple directions. This wouldn't have been possible without the new compass device and the intel they gathered along the way. The moment the Skallians' fleets got into their proper formations, Commander Nethriel ordered, move out. 6 massive wormholes were opened up in a straight line with plenty of distance from each other. The space fleets sped through them rapidly in perfect formations, disappearing into the cosmos. When the space fleets emerged on the other side, the capital planet was seen as a tiny red dot. It would be foolish to open wormholes right next to it after all. While Skallians' forces were marching in the direction of the capital, they had no clue that Prince Beelzebub and his brothers were waiting for them with their monstrous demonic armies stacked around the planet. The capital planet close lay under the sinister shadow of a demonic space monster army. Swirling clouds of darkness hung ominously in the planet's atmosphere, shrouding the once bustling demonic cities in an eerie gloom. The vile creatures, under the command of the 6 demon princes, had established a stronghold, their presence heralding an era of despair and chaos. The space monster army comprised an array of abominations, each more terrifying than the last. Massive leviathans, their elongated bodies adorned with serrated spines and writhing tentacles, loomed over the smaller vessels. Ne/W novel chapters are published on no/vel/bin.co/m. These behemoths possess the ability to manipulate gravitational forces, wreaking havoc upon anything unfortunate enough to be caught in their cosmic grasp. Accompanying the leviathans were swarms of smaller demons, grotesque and nimble. They resembled twisted hybrids of alien insectoid creatures and humanoid forms, their jet-black carapaces glistening with a sickly iridescence, razor-sharp claws, dripping with acidic venom, extended from their sinewy limbs, ready to rend apart any resistance. All of those demonic monsters were once space creatures minding their own business until they were captured by the demons and forcefully demonized. Do you guys think this is enough? Prince Beasley Bob asked with a somewhat nervous tone. His entire territory was on the line, and from all the news he was hearing in the past days, his confidence was really at a new low. We brought out leviathans and even ourselves, trust me, it's more than enough. Prince Satan stressed coldly. Although there were barely 10 such enormously big demonic creatures, the majority of the demons had a cocky confident hint in their eyes as they waited patiently for the Alliance's forces to arrive. One could only wonder why. Some time later, the Scullions' forces were seen surrounding Close and the demonic army around it. There was a decent distance between both parties as they remained still in their formations, resembling the calm before the storm. Usually, in such epic battles, the commanders of both sides would give it one last attempt to coerce the other side to surrender through intimidation. But in this case, even if both parties were somewhat intimidated by each other's forces, surrender wasn't an option on the table. I guess these are the Leviathans, Felix said as he watched the entire scene from the comfort of his cockpit away from the conflict. Based on the information extracted from Malgrath and other captured demons, Felix and the rest of the leaders pretty much knew almost everything about the demons' armies and their secret weapons. So, they created their own preparations to deal with their unique powers. Just as Felix was about to contact Commander Nethrael, the demons' armies were the first to commence their attack. The space monsters surged forward, their unearthly shrieks going silent through the vacuum of space. Their sheer numbers were overwhelming, but the SG Alliance fleet stood resolute. When the demonic space monsters got too close to comfort, Commander Nethrael ordered loudly, "Fire!" The warships opened up fire simultaneously, sending volleys of photon torpedoes, plasma beams of various colors, and antimatter missiles, unleashing a brilliant symphony of destruction. The demon princes, cunning strategists, had empowered their monstrous fleet with evil energies, granting them the ability to revive themselves when destroyed. So, even when those laser beams and volleys landed on those space-demonized monsters, their bodies had gotten reconstructed to their peak forms and continued their assault. Keep firing. The Scullions' forces had anticipated this much and didn't falter even a second in their barrage, knowing that those demonic monsters could not revive forever with limited evil energy around them. So, this caused many of them to end up dying for real and being left behind after taking too many direct shots. Still, the majority of those monsters had gotten too close to the Scullions' forces' formations, allowing them to kickstart their own barrage. Kill them. Prince Beelzebub screamed furiously as he watched his armies of demons opening their mouths widely and releasing crimson beams of potent evil energy in the direction of the fleets. The evil energy beams weren't simple in the slightest, as even the hardest known alloy could only succumb to the corruption and get weakened. Captain. We have been hit. Mayday. Mayday. Starship 485 is going down. Arg. Help me. I cannot think. The worst part of being hit by those beams was the sinister energy getting inside and ending up corrupting all the crewmates. With its great potency and those crewmates being not so strong physically/mentally, the corruption had seeped into their minds easily and made them have nothing but evil thoughts. This resulted in some of them turning against their own fleets and firing deadly plasma beams at their friends before their spaceships turned into a piece of junk due to the corruption. This created a chaotic scene on the battlefield as those demonized monsters kept running amok, hitting and corrupting whatever was in front of them. Send out the agile fighters and tell them to isolate those monsters from the larger warships. Commander Nethrael devised an ingenious tactic to counter the monstrous fleet. He deployed squadrons of agile fighters, engaging the space monsters in breathtaking dogfights, distracting them, and creating openings for their larger vessels. The battleships, armed with colossal railguns and ion cannons, pounded the demonic armada, rupturing their hideous forms and casting them into oblivion. Still, there were just too many of them, as the demonic monster army were a combination of 6 realms armies united as one. The worst part? With them exploding left and right, they release great quantities of evil energies across the entire battlefield, adding to the already existing dangerous amount. It feels like we are fighting air with this much evil energy around. Emperor Lockle commentated with a worried tone. This SNT looking too promising. 1305 The battle for Tartarus. 2. The problem with the space demons' armies was their natural adaptability in the vacuum of space, as this was their environment. 1. This allowed them to use their claws and sharp teeth to break apart the hard alloys, which caused a sudden release of air and pressure imbalance within the spaceship. This was catastrophic, as everyone near the breach ended up getting sucked outside of the spaceship and into the vacuum of space, making them get frozen almost immediately. Crack. Crack. Just like they were having a feast, the demonized monsters kept feeding on those thrown-out crewmen and soldiers. Obviously, they prioritized eating their purities, which made them even more agitated for more. Close down the breaches. A warship general shouted inside his cockpit. We can't let the monsters have gotten inside the lockdown area. His subordinate yelled back as he showed him multiple live feeds of hideous demonic creatures roaming inside their spaceship. The moment a breach occurs, the entire zone near it gets locked shut to avoid affecting more zones inside the warship. However, this made it possible for the monsters to enter the spaceship after the pressure disappeared. Send the Guardians to take them down. The general was left with no choice but to send actual strong fighters to engage with those monsters. Wake up, we have been called to clean some trash. Nero said coldly as he headbutted his brother's head to the side. 5 more minutes. Wowf mumbled without bothering to open his eyes. He is lazing around again? More fun for me, I guess. The executioner remarked calmly as he walked past them and disappeared with a sudden passing wind breeze. In your dreams. Nero snickered. Nero wasn't too pleased with being surpassed by the executioner, as he didn't come all the way here just to have his achievements stolen. All large warships had many guardians within them capable of fighting monsters with their bare hands. Most of them were ex-SG players, but there were many other fighters who were nurtured by the Alliance from birth to join the army. All of those guardians were tasked to protect the warships, the crewmen, and the staff from any source of interior danger. In return, they would be getting rewarded with achievements that could be cashed out to reclaim territories when the SG Alliance finalized their conquest. So, this wasn't just a simple protection mission but an actual hardcore competition to gain as many achievements as possible. WoW/Nero didn't really care that much about the territories but more about making their race respected. All Dragolas born from a mixture of a dragon and a heavenly turtle were considered a bit retarded as their extreme racial personalities clashed. Only these two seemed to have it work for the better, and they would be damned if they didn't let everyone know that their race was far from a bunch of retards born out of a failed experiment. Nasty creatures, I will free you from your misery. The executioner beamed his katana, but there was no wind around him to wield as the locked area was now part of the vacuum of space. If it wasn't for his anti-gravitational spacesuit keeping him fixed on the ground, he would be having trouble staying on the ground. The moment the hideous demonized creatures saw him, they charged in his direction with blood-red eyes and mouths wide open, hurling saliva everywhere. With a swift and graceful motion, the seasoned executioner drew his gleaming katana from its scabbard, the blade humming with anticipation, his eyes narrowed, focusing on his targets with unwavering determination. As he took a step forward, the self-created wind responded to his presence, swirling and whirling, as if bowing to the master of the blade. The power of the wind coursed through his veins, becoming an extension of his weapon, his every movement harmonizing with the flow of the cosmos. In a single fluid motion, he raised his katana high above his head, channeling his energy into the blade. The wind howled in response as if echoing the impending strike. Then, he murmured under his breath, "Itaryu, the whisper of Grim Reaper." All of that built-up explosive momentum went silent the instant he swung his katana down. Time seemed to have come to a halt as a smooth thin invisible wind blade weaved through the air and sliced through everything in its path that was related to the demonized monsters. In the blink of an eye, the invisible wind blade landed on the spaceship's wall and disappeared like it carried absolutely no strength. But the scene before it would make anyone reconsider as the demons were seen cut into multiple body parts, each flying in a different direction. Dragon's breath. The silence didn't remain for long as a magnificent shower of flames fell on those sliced-apart demons, turning them into ashes almost instantaneously. "I didn't need your help." The executioner turned around with an indifferent look that targeted WoW/Nero. "We did not ask to be partnered with you either, but here we are." Nero sneered. "You guys really hate each other's guts." Carefree as always, WoW chuckled in amusement as he used his earth manipulation to push the ashes outside of the breach and close it shut. This way at least the demons would get resurrected on the outside and get taken care of by any passing fighter spaceship. "Just don't get in my path." The executioner sheathed his katana and disappeared yet again, heading to handle another demon invasion on his warship. Meanwhile, those two remained here and protected the breach until the revived demons get eliminated. Similar scenes were happening across thousands of warships around the battlefield as everyone was fighting tooth and nail to prove themselves. With them acting as the perfect blockade to those demons' warships' invasions, the warships' cockpits were left with an ease of mind to focus completely on erasing as many demons as possible in outer space. This made it seem like the SG Alliance were slowly getting control back over the battlefield since those demonized creatures were running on one track in their minds compared to them. The demon princes seemed to have realized it as well. "I think it's time to use the Leviathans," Prince Abaddon suggested with a hardened expression. "I think so too, the battlefield is already chaotic enough." Prince Belphegor supported. When all the demon princes seemed to be on the same page, each sent an order to the humongous Leviathans, which had sizes as big as the Skallians' motherships. The order was really simple: kill everything on the battlefield. With their gargantuan sizes, the moment they began moving in the direction of the battlefield, it was hard to miss them. "The Leviathans have been used. Scatter." Commander Nethrail ordered all the fleets. Knowing that those cosmic behemoths possessed the ability to manipulate gravity made him understand that it would render their spaceships powerless in their insane gravitational grip. So, the devised plan to counter their gravitational grip was to scatter away from the battlefield while they prepare to launch a synchronized attack. This was exactly what the Alliance's fleet did as they stopped bothering themselves with the demonized creatures and took off in seemingly random directions but in somewhat perfect formations. The demons tried to chase them off but the spaceships were just too fast for them. Obviously, not all spaceships managed to get away from the battlefield. At least 1,000 ended up unable to move far before getting intercepted in the way by a flood of demons. There were others who had their spaceship engines destroyed and some were corrupted. Whatever the reason to make them stay, the scene before the crewmates was enough to cause them to freeze in fear. Who could blame them? The Leviathans were seen opening their colossal disgusting mouths as wide as possible while using their crazy gravitational pull toward them. Whether demons or spaceships, all of them were seen fighting for their lives to not get sucked inside those pitch black holes. Alas, resistance was futile. "No. Dear God, please protect my family. I didn't think it would end like this." Hey. Each crewman had a different reaction to their upcoming death as some begged, some prayed, and some accepted their fate with their eyes closed. They knew that no one was going to rescue them as this was a battlefield and heroes didn't exist in them. Their assumption was right as the Alliance leaders, Commander Nethrail, generals, and even other crewmen merely had stoic expressions as they watched those spaceships disappear into the void of those Leviathans' mouths. No one cried, not felt angry, and no one lost control over their emotions. During an active battlefield, emotions had no place. Bastards, they must have already known about Leviathan's prowess for them to react this quickly. Meanwhile, Prince Beelzebub and his brothers weren't too pleased with the end result. 1,000 spaceships might seem like a lot, but the Alliance's forces were in the hundreds of thousands. The worst part, they ended up sacrificing plenty of their demon armies for merely 1,000. "It's all right, our demons will be resurrected and they still cannot do anything to our Leviathans besides scattering like mice." Prince Satan sneered. If only it was possible to take those words back, he would have done it in a heartbeat if he knew what was about to happen next. "Prepare the synchronized plasma beam." Commander Nethrail ordered calmly. .ne/w novel chapters are published on 1306 The Battle for Tartarus. 3. The mothership, along with the rest of the fleets, hummed with electric anticipation. The synchronized plasma beam attack was a tactic of last resort, one that required the entire fleets to channel their energy weapons into a unified, devastating beam of pure energy. It was a move that required precision, timing, and an unwavering resolve. The plasma cannons of each ship began to glow, filling with superheated particles, their humming becoming a chorus of power. Technicians scrambled over control panels, their fingers dancing over buttons and levers as they adjusted trajectory and power output. The energy of the fleet began to sync, their individual pulses of power harmonizing into one. In the void of space, the Leviathan roared, a wave of energy cascading out from the form that rattled the shields of the fleets even with such a massive distance between them. The gigantic entity, pulsing with cosmic power, seemed to sense the imminent threat. It thrashed, its massive form twisting in the void as it propelled itself toward the closest fleet to it. Commander Nethrail held his breath, his heart pounding against his ribs as he watched the energy levels rise. Steady, steady, he murmured, his eyes never leaving the main view screen. Then, at the exact moment, he gave the command. Fire. The hum of the plasma cannons reached a crescendo, the harmonized energy shooting forth in a brilliant beam of sizzling white-blue light. It pierced the blackness of space and collided with the closest Leviathan in a spectacular display of light and energy. The cosmic entity writhed, its form contorting as it tried to resist the onslaught of the plasma beam. The space around them seemed to distort, the pressure from the attack and the Leviathan's resistance causing ripples in the fabric of reality itself. Alas, regardless of the Leviathan's toughness, the condensed white beam was just too powerful for it. The enormous force of the attack caused the Leviathan to thrash uncontrollably, altering its shape. Normally pulsing with a red, ethereal glow, its celestial body started to flicker and dim. Energy flared across its surface in erratic patterns, reflecting the chaos of the beast's existence. Then it took place. The Leviathan's outer layers were cut through by the plasma beam's focal point, the concentrated center of the fleet's total energy. From the impact site, a spectacular flare with a brightness comparable to a supernova's luminosity emerged. The cosmic monster's heart had been broken. The Leviathan let out a roar that reverberated throughout space-time, a primordial scream of rage and agony that reverberated throughout the vacuum of space. The energy within the monster started to become unstable as it writhed, its form twisting violently. Its glow became stronger, changing from its customary dark purple to an obscenely bright white. As the energy locked inside the Leviathan tried to escape, it grew larger and larger. It finally exploded with a tremendous boom after that. It was a tremendous explosion. The Leviathan unleashed a shockwave of unbridled, primal energy that swept the cosmos like a tsunami of cosmic force, hitting the remaining Leviathans and reaching even the 6 demon princes in the Scollion's fleet. We did it. That's what I am talking about. Let's go. The Scollion's troops cheered at the top of their lungs with reddened cheeks in excitement after avenging their fallen troops. Impossible. Meanwhile, the 6 demon princes and their subordinates were left with mouths wide open in disbelief. One of their super weapons that helped him conquer the universe was taken out just like that. The scene was just too shocking, but they could do nothing but believe it as they had seen it with their own eyes. Retreat. Prince Satan was the first to order his Leviathans to get away from the battleground as he didn't want a similar fate to befall them. The dead one belonged to Prince Beelzebub, which made his face turn even darker when he saw Prince Satan's Leviathans retreat. What are you doing? He yelled. The smart thing. Prince Satan ignored his furious tone and continued watching his Leviathans returning to the planet's atmosphere. The rest of the princes did the same as well, causing Prince Beelzebub to get even more infuriated. Our territory's survival depends on those Leviathans and there is no way we will sacrifice them when we have no clue if those bastards could fire a similar attack continuously. Prince Belphegor remarked. What about me? What about my territory? Prince Beelzebub shouted back. Visit Enfelben. CM for you ovals. Don't worry, we aren't planning to give up just yet. Prince Abaddon said coldly, it's clear that we can't win in spatial warfare, so, let's stop wasting our time and get our hands dirty. The demons had tried spaceships, demonized space monsters, and even their secret weapon, the Leviathans. When all failed to stop the Scollion's invasion, it was time for the demon princes to make them understand why their race would never fall as long as they were alive. Now, we are talking, I will take the big one. Prince Beelzebub's expression turned icy as he focused on the mothership. In a split second, Prince Beelzebub turned into a crimson misty cloud and disappeared. The other princes looked at each other for a moment before breaking into the same red mist. Thank God our attack has frightened them. A crewmate sighed in relief while looking at Commander Nethrail with a tint of worship. Unbeknownst to the demon princes, the synchronized plasma attack was considered a last resort of a reason. It overheated all the plasma weapons to the point none of them could fire a single thing for at least 10 minutes of cooling down. This meant the entire Scollion's fleets would be left vulnerable to a nasty counterattack unless they decided to retreat from the battlefield completely. Commander Nethrail still went for this decision, betting on the princes getting frightened by their attack, making them pull back their Leviathans to safety. Don't lose focus yet, this isn't over yet. Commander Nethrail warned his subordinates. His warning was proven correct sooner than anyone could anticipate as Prince Beelzebub busted open a gate and stepped inside the mothership without a single care about the screaming staff members flying through the breach. We have been breached. When everyone saw Prince Beelzebub walking deeper inside the mothership while releasing an uncanny amount of potent evil energy, their expressions couldn't help but turn for the worst. How did he get in without raising a single alarm? Queen Allura covered her mouth at the sight of the mothership's staff getting demonized in the blink of an eye. The evil energy was pulsing through their bodies, transforming them into something that was unhuman. As the evil energy rushed into them, devouring them from the inside out, their body violently trembled. Their once kind eyes were suddenly growing darker, the warmth in them having been replaced by a terrifying, deep pit. Their pupils shrunk and grew alarmingly quickly, the sclera turning unnatural, horrifying black. It was a terrifying sight, one that would make even the most courageous warrior shudder. Their skins were now either rough and red or deathly pale, almost translucent. The veins underneath, visible like a network of sinister serpents, pulsed with an eerie black hue, the evil energy seeping into every cell, every fiber of their being. This This entire transformation was done in less than a few seconds as Prince Beelzebub continued on his steady journey, leaving behind him a newborn army of demons, hungry for nothing but purities. Thud. 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 All of them rushed past him and began assaulting their escaping friends and colleagues, not caring in the slightest about the memories between them. As expected, evil power source demonization is nowhere close to a prince handling it. Felix frowned at the horrible sight. He understood that if Prince Beelzebub wasn't stopped, it would take him no less than an hour to turn the entire mothership into an infested demon place. Guys, I will leave him to you. Felix stated as he eyed the Fukin's Lord Aitson, Shadowborn's ruler Hogon, and the Fog Crawler's Emperor Runneth in 3 holographic screens. We will give him a taste of the Alliance's real strength. Shadowborn's ruler Hogon smirked coldly as he disappeared inside the nearest shadow to him. The others nodded with solemn expressions and took off towards Prince Beelzebub. It was obvious that the Alliance leaders had anticipated Prince Beelzebub making a personal move against their fleets when he get desperate. So, those 3 were chosen as the Mothership Guardians through a draw with all the top 50 strongest fighters in the Alliance in one pot. Only Felix, King Mahit, and some exceptions were removed from the pot. Commander. Warships 487D, 78S4, 32BN, 119C, and 668K are being assaulted by other princes. SH*T, I didn't think they will actually attack at once. Tell all the Guardians to swiftly engage on those princes and hold them down until the 3 leaders take down Prince Beelzebub. Commander Nethril ordered as he leaned next to the radio. Since most of the demon's army was taken care of after blowing the Leviathan, there was no need for the Guardians to stay on their warships besides the ones attacked by the princes. So, the Executioner, WoW/Nero, Disfigured Beauty, Nightowl, Hive Night Guards, and more ex-players jumped on their nearest small spaceship and took off towards those warships. As expected, all you have is your brains. Today, I will make sure to put them on the menu. Prince Beelzebub licked his lips coldly as he watched his new demonized army massacring anyone before them without an ounce of resistance. This thought did not take root in his mind for even a second before he got ambushed by his own shadow. Slice. 1307 The Battle for Tartarus. 4. The End. Slice. Out of nowhere, a shadow blade emerged from Prince Beelzebub's shadow and left a long bloody gash on his chest after he reflexively moved to the side. If it wasn't for his sharp instinct, his head would have been flying in the air. In a split second, the wound was healed after crimson mist covered it. Not bad. Shadowborn's ruler Hogon emerged from multiple shadows around Prince Beelzebub, surrounding him from all sides. Shadow manipulation. Prince Beelzebub frowned. You must be the leader of these weakling slaves. I am a leader, but no one here is a slave. Shadowborn's ruler Hogon smiled coldly. Now, let's get this over with. Drawing upon his shadow abilities, Shadowborn's ruler Hogon summoned dark tendrils that snaked and writhed around his arms. His eyes glowed with an ethereal, violet light as he prepared to engage in this deadly dance. He took a deep breath, steeling his resolve, and charged forward with a burst of supernatural speed. All of his clones did the same, which made Prince Beelzebub swing his massive arm around him, conjuring a tempest of malevolent red energy that streaked toward Shadowborn's ruler Hogon clones. But Shadowborn's ruler Hogon was prepared. With a swift motion of his hand, he created a swirling vortex of shadows, which deflected the incoming attack. However, since potent evil energy was used, the vortex of shadows ended up turning slightly red in shade the moment it made contact with the tempest. Instead of the vortex dissipating, it actually turned around and assaulted the nearest shadow clone. The moment contact was made with the clone, it ended up getting corrupted as well and becoming redder in shade. SH*T, he is using my own shadow abilities against me. Shadowborn's ruler Hogon was forced to disengage as he lost his clones one by one until they turned against him. The first thing he did was cut off their fuel, thinking that without his elemental energy, those clones would break into particles. But he couldn't be more wrong as those clones were now considered made out of mostly evil energy even when they still resembled shadow clones. Kill him. Prince Beelzebub ordered coldly as he manifested a magnificent demonic spiky whip. It was completely red in color and looked as solid as any other whip. No one would guess that it was made out of crystallized evil energy and a single touch with it would leave anyone reconsidering his faith. Whoosh. Whoosh. As Shadowborn's ruler Hogon was evading those clones' attacks, he was forced to dance as elegantly as he could to avoid the incoming swings of Prince Beelzebub's whip. He danced gracefully, melding with the shadows, evading the onslaught with each nimble step. Prince Beelzebub kept adding pressure on him by firing projectiles from the least expected directions. Obviously, Shadowborn's ruler Hogon was also using multiple dangerous shadow attacks like spikes rising from the ground. Alas, even when Prince Beelzebub allowed those attacks to land on him, his wounds healed almost instantaneously. When Shadowborn ruler Hogon realized that this wasn't going anywhere, he tried to enter his shadow realm and think of a better strategy. But just as he was about to commit to it, a sudden rush of dense grey fog filled the entire area, making it impossible for one to even see their fingers. A fog elementalist. Prince Beelzebub looked around him with a startled expression. He thought that shadow elementalists ruled the invaders' forces, but he didn't expect that another elementalist race would be involved. Before he could wrap his mind around the thought, his instincts screamed at him to dodge. Alas, when he tried to jump to the side, he found out that his body was immobile like he was being held by a pack of ghosts. Unbeknownst to him, the moment he got inside Emperor Runneth's fog, his mind was already assaulted by a wicked mental attack that changed his mind's order configuration. In other words, when he was ordering his body to move, he was in fact ordering it to remain standing still. The scariest thing about this was that Prince Beelzebub felt absolutely nothing when he was hit with this mental attack. Even if he found out about it now, it would have been too late. With a fierce determination in his eyes, the Pandion's High Honor Jarl lowered his outstretched hands, aiming directly at Prince Beelzebub's wicked heart. The air crackled with anticipation as the neutral energy condensed, taking on a brilliant white hue. It swirled and coalesced, forming into a concentrated beam of pure, condensed power. Then, the energy beam surged forward, its luminescent core cutting through the fog with unparalleled intensity. The air sizzled and distorted in its wake, the sheer force of its presence rippling through the battlefield. As the beam closed in on its target, time seemed to slow. The light refracted and shimmered, casting intricate patterns across the demon's grotesque form. The energy beam's radiant brilliance illuminated every sinister detail of Beelzebub's twisted essence. Without warning, the intense beam collided with its intended mark, the demon's torso. A cataclysmic explosion of power erupted upon impact, shaking the very foundation of reality. The air trembled and roared, a shockwave radiating outward, obliterating everything in its path. The fog was cleared out, the shadows were obliterated, and even the spaceship's structure wasn't spared as the walls burst apart into cardboard paper, causing everything to get hurled outside of the spaceship. King Hell, Jera, a bit of warning won't hurt. Ruler Hogong complained as he emerged from High Honor Jera's shadow. Stop whining and go check on the demon. High Honor Jera uttered indifferently with smoke still emitting from his furry bear's paws. The fog crawler's Emperor Runant appeared next to them as a cloud of fog. A creepy insect-like mouth manifested alone in the fog and spoke with an emotionless tone. No need, his corpse has been thrown outside of the spaceship, it's best that we retreat before he resurrects himself. Emperor Runant was extremely rational and never let even an ounce of ego or pride get in the process of his thinking. The smartest decision in his eyes was to make the mothership retreat completely from the battlefield to avoid another invasion by Prince Beelzebub. He was certain that Prince Beelzebub would be much more difficult to handle next time now that he knew of their true prowess. Commander Nethril shared his thought process as the moment he noticed that Prince Beelzebub was kicked out, he took off into the distance while ordering his fleets to commit their attack on the unprotected capital planet. The mothership was the most important part of the fleet and it must never fall. Meanwhile, Prince Beelzebub could be seen unlocking his demonic infuriated eyes amidst the battlefield's space rubble. When he saw that the mothership had disappeared and his planet was being rushed at by an unfathomable number of spaceships, his face turned dark. Bastards. He felt cheated as he didn't think that there would be 3 powerful fighters amidst those weaklings. He was taking it easy for a second before his chest was blown off. The first thing he did was warn his brothers to not fall into the same trap. What are you talking about? They're just a bunch of weaklings. Prince Satan remarked with a casual tone as he was standing amidst tens of ruined corpses. All of them belonged to famously known ex-players who were strong enough to strike terror into the hearts of commoners. Yet, here they were lying on the ground without a breath. Though, I am surprised that there are many unique elementalists amidst them. Prince Belphegor said with an intrigued tone as he looked at the demonized small army before him. Unlike Prince Satan, he demonized the Guardians as he wanted to know more about the SG Alliance. Indeed, I am starting to think that those invaders have really come from beyond the eternal darkness. There is no way so many unique races will be in a single galaxy. Prince Abaddon uttered with a glimmer in his eyes. Whatever. My planet is under attack, we need to return and protect it. Prince Beelzebub changed the subject swiftly to avoid his brothers asking him about his catastrophic failure when they had succeeded in conquering their targets. There is no need to return, just order the Leviathans to stand guard with their gravitational pull active and those spaceships wouldn't dare get nearer to the planet. Prince Mammon suggested. This was exactly what Prince Beelzebub did to keep the Scullions' fleet from getting dangerously close to his planet's atmosphere. Get latest oval CH pictures on NV.E.LBJ/N.C/M. With the Leviathan's crazy pulling force, Commander Nethril didn't dare risk losing his other fleets. Announce a full retreat and swiftly tell the rest of the Guardians to return to their warships. Also, inform the troops on the invaded warships to do whatever it takes to escape. He ordered. But sir. His subordinate found it a bit difficult to accept his order as it meant giving up on those invaded 5 warships and everyone on it. Do it. Commander Nethril stressed coldly. As much as it pained Commander Nethril, he knew that sending more Guardians to those warships was the same as sending them to their death. As for sending the 3 leaders to save them, he knew that those princes wouldn't hesitate to gang up on them and kill them, even worse, demonize them and turn them to their side. His final plan was to pressure the 6 princes to defend their unprotected planet, but their swift countermeasure of using the Leviathans blocked it. To win this war, we can't have those princes stay together. Commander Nethril narrowed his eyes as he watched all of his fleets retreating away from the capital. We must divide and conquer. Felix understood that he wanted to attack the 6 demon realms simultaneously to force each prince to remain in his own capital. This would have ended in the first 10 minutes if you were here. Asna said lazily. Felix remained silent as he knew that she was right. While the 6 demon princes' strength was quite noteworthy if they didn't underestimate their targets, it was still nothing before him. Alas, Felix's true enemies weren't those demons but the Darkins who could put him through the same fate. The day I truly step inside the 7 demon realms, I'll have no more enemies here. Felix uttered with an icy tone. 1308 Elder Stravi with the Alioop. Even when Scullion's fleets retreated, Prince Beelzebub still had no happiness on his face. He was relieved that his capital hadn't fallen but understood that the danger wasn't gone yet. It took us too much investment and we still barely reduced 1% of those bastards' forces. Prince Beelzebub frowned. The next time they come, they will be ready to take my home from me for real. Prince Beelzebub had lost almost all of his spaceships, a significant quantity of space demons, and even a Leviathan. To make matters worse, he ended up defeated when he invaded the mothership. For now, he regrouped with his brothers to discuss their next move. Are they refusing to sign the soul contract? Prince Beelzebub inquired when he noticed his brothers pulling with them chained raging demons. Those demons had the same features as Shadowborns, Elves, Pandians, Centaurs, and more races belonging to the Alliance. With a bit of starvation, they will come around and beg us to sign the contract. Prince Belphegor sneered. He didn't bother to question any of them now about the SG Alliance since newly demonized strong fighters had a bit of will to them. This will would falter only when they realize that without purities, their lives were over. Now what? Prince Beelzebub suggested without an ounce of shame. I think it's best if you brought all of your troops here. With our armies united, they... No, thank you. Prince Satan sneered. I am not planning to leave my territory defenseless just to protect your precious capital. This is the last time I am coming here. You. As much as I hate to admit it, this war has really just one result. Prince Mammon sighed. Our territory is falling in their hands slowly until we will be left with just our capital or even less. I would rather remain in my territory and try my best to prolong this from happening. Although it seemed like the SG Alliance had lost this battle, in reality, they merely took a calculated retreat to rethink their strategy with all the new information in their possession. The advantage was still on their side heavily and the demon princes were smart to see that. The only thing we can do is try to target their leaders and demonize them. Prince Abaddon nodded. I am suggesting we bring Lucifer into this. It's not the time for either worship or fight for the throne. Prince Asmodeus said with a solemn tone. Before this battle, the 6 princes had great confidence that they would win the war with a landslide and accuse Lucifer of being an irresponsible demon king. But now? They understood that they needed every piece of strength at their disposal and Lucifer was known to be the strongest of them all, either individually or through his demon army. In fact, his demon army could be said to double their demon army while united even including the Leviathans. If it wasn't for this, his territory wouldn't be the biggest and he wouldn't be considered the demon king even when he was gone for hundreds of thousands of years. Get the latest chapters on n/felbin.com. We have helped you protect your capital, it's time for you to pay and handle Lucifer for us. Wait, what? We are counting on you. Hold on. I didn't sign for this. Alas, no matter how much Prince Beelzebub screamed, his brothers had already taken off with their new demons. A couple of days later, the SG Lines had retracted their troops from the capital's territory but made sure to station many scouting fleets near it. As for its solar system, all of the nearby planets had been conquered already and now the SG Lines were ironing their foundation by eliminating the runaway demons and establishing military bases. They were doing this across his entire demon realm as they kept getting reports of demons running amok due to their lack of military bases in those conquered planets. Prince Beelzebub was receiving intel about the Scullions' movement, but he could do nothing but grit his teeth and watch. To make matters worse, his attempts to reach out to Lucifer failed continuously, making him understand that if he wanted Lucifer to join them he had to visit him personally. He found it hard to do this when he had no clue if the SG Lines would launch another attack at his capital when he was gone. Meanwhile, the SG Lines had absolutely no intentions of getting close to him for the meantime as they were focusing on making all conquered planets truly theirs. They kept getting reports of demons running amok due to their lack of military bases and the SG Lines felt that it was better to secure their foundation before expanding even more, especially after their latest setback. So, for the next 2 months or so, the war on the 7 demon realms was halted but not a single demon felt relieved by this as they could feel that the SG Lines was taking its preparation as seriously as possible. Igles 10 on the other hand, Felix had already entered the Elementals galaxy and had just reached Elder Stravi planet atmosphere. The moment he got close, the clouds on the planet turned into a massive featureless face. Welcome back, child. Elder Stravi greeted kindly. Thank you Elder for having me again. Felix replied politely, I have brought with me some delicacies, I hope the Elder enjoys them. You didn't have to, but, I'll gladly accept them. Elder Stravi smiled in appreciation. You are most welcome. To show his gratitude, Elder Stravi offered, would you like me to teleport you straight to your friends? That will be helpful. As he said this, Felix exited swiftly from his spaceship and beamed it in his spatial card. Then, he closed his eyes and when he opened them again, he found himself standing near a breathtaking lake. The sun's gentle rays caressed the tranquil surface of the lake, casting a shimmering tapestry of golden hues upon its pristine waters. Nestled amidst a lush emerald forest, the lake emanated an aura of enchantment, beckoning all who approached to succumb to its captivating allure. Bathed in the ethereal glow, 2 enchanting figures emerged from the water's embrace. Olivia and Selphie, their forms reminiscent of celestial goddesses, possessed an otherworldly beauty that defied mortal comprehension. Their luminous skin, kissed by a million sunbeams, glowed with a radiant vitality, while their cascading tresses, woven with wild flowers, seemed to breathe with the rhythm of nature itself. As droplets of water glistened upon their silken skin, their features reflected a delicate harmony of grace and allure. Selphie, with her soul-capturing eyes sparkling like twin pools of eternity, possessed an aura of regal elegance. Long, flowing locks of golden hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall of sunlight, weaving a symphony of golden threads that framed her enchanting countenance. Beside her stood Olivia, a vision of ethereal charm, her sapphire eyes held a mischievous twinkle, reflecting the playful spirit that resided within her. Felix wasn't mesmerized by their beauty but by Olivia's complete transformation. As she moved, her floral tresses swayed in harmony with her every step, releasing a symphony of fragrances that perfumed the air like a sweet melody. Petals softly brushed against her cheeks, leaving a trail of ephemeral kisses in their wake, as if nature itself caressed her with tender admiration. She seemed one with nature and her floral hair was a living testament to the harmonious dance between humanity and nature. Don't tell me. Oh, I forgot to tell you, your little friend has succeeded in breaking through the origin realm. Lady Sphinx informed with a casual tone without bothering to lift her head from her book. Felix had already reached this realization on his own as Olivia's entire demeanor became that of a goddess of nature, resembling Lady Yggdrasil even more than her own daughter Selphie. Who's there? It seemed her senses have risen to a new peak as she had located Felix's intrusion in less than a second. When she turned around and saw Felix's eyes ogling her and Selphie with his new demonic form, her eyes widened in disbelief for a brief moment before she exclaimed, Felix. Poof. Olivia shattered into a cloud of mesmerizing colorful flower petals before reappearing right in front of Felix. I missed you. She hugged him tightly, seemingly uncaring about her smooth fair skin coming in direct contact with him. Felix. Selphie broke out of her daze the moment she saw this. Her eyes turned slightly red like she was on the verge of breaking into tears, without uttering a single word or putting even a towel, Selphie joined the hug as well. Felix was left a bit speechless and somewhat uncomfortable as he could feel everything touching him and had absolutely no clue what to do. He didn't dare to even place his hands on their backs as he could feel a burning stare directed straight into his soul, seemingly daring him to touch their perfect skins. He could lift his head and stare at the sky with an aggravated expression. He. You are welcome. Elder Stravi chuckled. 1309 A small hope. Girls, I miss you too, but how about you put some clothes on first? Felix said with a wry smile. When the girls heard and glanced below, their cheeks reddened in embarrassment. In a swift manner, they broke out of their hug and covered themselves with beautiful elegant nano dresses. Only now did Felix smile comfortably and brought them back into his hug, catching them off guard. I hope those past 3 centuries haven't been too rough on you. He wished. When he merely spent 3 years more or less on the outside, Selfie and Olivia went through 3 whole centuries, it was understandable that their reaction would be this overwhelming when they saw Felix. Everyone was good to us and we have learned a lot. Olivia replied with a delighted tone. I can see that. Felix chuckled while flickering her on the forehead, I didn't think you had it in you to enter the origin realm without me. You told me when you feel ready to do it, you should go for it. Olivia smiled happily, a century ago, I had a sudden urge to break through and I felt that if I missed it, I will never have the guts to do it again. You did it on your own. Felix raised an eyebrow in surprise. Felix knew that would be an insane achievement that even Noah wasn't able to pull off after putting in his sweat and blood to prepare for the breakthrough. No, I got help from Elder Yggdrasil. Olivia explained as she pointed at Selfie, it turned out, the Elder was keeping a wisp of consciousness in Selfie's consciousness space all along. I see. As the bloodline owner, Lady Yggdrasil would have easily made the process much smoother for Olivia just like how Fenrir helped Noah. Still, Felix knew that would have been extremely difficult on Olivia as Noah's breakthrough process took days of hellish agony. For Olivia to push through it as well, she really wanted it more than anything else. Congratulations, who would have known that our little Oli will become the second semi-primogenitor? Felix patted her on the head with a proud smile, I guess you have gotten a plant element limited manipulation and a considerable enhancement. Yep. And Olivia nodded with an eager look, seemingly wanting to show off her progress before him. But, she held herself from doing so, knowing that Felix had just returned and needed some time to feel at home. That's good to hear. Felix turned to Selfie and asked with a faint smile, what about you? Any breakthroughs during your time spell studies? Not so much, I have barely managed to decipher the runic codex and create 2 lesser time spells from it during your absence. Selfie bit her upper lip while looking at the other side, seemingly embarrassed by her achievements when in front of Felix. As the love of her life, she tried her very best to create many new time spells so she could astound him when he returned, but she wasn't satisfied in the slightest with her results. When Felix realized her intentions, his eyelids couldn't help but twitch. 2 whole new time spells created and mastered in a couple of centuries, yet she is still disappointed. She really makes me mad sometimes. Felix was still struggling with greater spatial spells even with his cheat clone's help in the UVR due to the runic spells. Complexity raising and his comprehension was not on par. His wisdom eye would have helped him a great deal with this, but Lord Shiva was still ignoring his existence, not bothering to help him with anything unless he felt like it. If it wasn't for this, Felix would have already requested him to meet King Mahit and his descendants. But with their tense unfriendly relationship, he knew that he would be shot down and he didn't want to waste the sole opportunity for King Mahit, it wouldn't be fair for him. 2 new time spells is something worth celebrating. Felix praised, I hope I will have the honor to be the first one to learn them after you. You are flattering me too much. I still have a lot to learn. Selfie got somewhat shy. Don't we all? Felix chuckled for a moment before asking with a curious tone, where are that Fatty and Noah? Didn't you hear? Brother Bodidai has long since departed from the planet. Olivia reported. Where did that troublemaker go? Felix frowned. He hit a wall a long time ago and wasn't learning much on his own. When Elder Stravi saw that he was wasting his time fooling around, he sent him packing to the spatial god in the galaxy. I hope he is bettering his spatial manipulation, we kinda didn't hear from him for a while now. Olivia answered with a somewhat hopeful tone. Is that so? It's about time he receives proper guidance. Felix was gratified with the news as he knew that if Bodidai truly put his mind into mastering his spatial manipulation, he would be able to do more than open long-distance wormholes between galaxies. As for Noah, he's spending most of his time on the North Pole with Master Fenrir. Olivia sighed, he is really too hard on himself as we have barely met him in the past century. I expected as much. Felix wasn't really that surprised, while he had already embraced his family/people's death and was focusing wholeheartedly on avenging them, Noah was still hung on saving his sister even if it meant going to the spirit realm. Knowing that everything he wanted to do had a giant strength threshold, Noah was pushing himself to make a difference. He has been making great strides I have heard. Selfish shared, with him becoming a semi-primogenitor with a heavy blood relation to Elder Fenrir, his elemental manipulation talent could be considered as unrivaled, below only Elder Fenrir. With his insane dedication to getting stronger, he must have really gotten far in his ice manipulation. Felix assumed with a smile. Fenrir might be living in his consciousness space, but he never bothered to share Noah's development with him. I heard that his physical strength is also improving at a steady pace through something called werewolf's muscles ironing. Olivia uttered with a confused tone. That works even after the origin realm. Felix asked his masters this time. He already knew that werewolves were capable of getting physically stronger through constant battles due to that innate condition. That's why Noah was always fighting much stronger monsters than him as his muscles kept getting tougher and tougher. But he didn't think that even after reaching the origin realm, he would still be able to continue taking advantage of it. After all, it was known that the origin realm was the end of the road for bloodliners due to the enhancements received hitting the limit. Each bloodliner might have a different limit, which was translated to a different enhancement, but no one was able to get stronger beyond the origin realm unless it was a temporary boost. Up TED chapters nnfelben.com. We found out that being a semi-primogenitor gave him a new limitation, and even though he was already an origin bloodliner, he still has too much to improve. Lady Sphinx answered. We kinda hope that the situation is the same for you too. Thor mentioned. With Felix's foundation being one of the greatest in the entire universe for a bloodliner, it only implied that his limitation would break off the ceiling. If reaching the origin realm didn't help him reach his limit, then he would still continue getting stronger and stronger. This meant that Felix would actually have the chance to overcome even primogenitor's limitations and go beyond. At this moment, I only hope to break through the origin realm as naturally as possible. Felix uttered with a serious tone. Felix did not tell anyone, but he had a small hope that if Noah and Olivia became semi-primogenitors through an unnatural breakthrough, then would it be possible to become a real and new primogenitor when he entered the origin realm? 1310 The Darkin's first meeting with Lucifer. After spending some time chatting with the girls and updating them about the situation on the outside, Felix took off with them toward the Emerald Glen village. When he arrived, he met with Chief Cloverus, Chief Tess Sunflower, and the rest of the villagers. Felix made their day happier as he brought out gifts for all of them. Since he was gone for a very long time, Chief Cloverus proposed holding a welcoming party for him. As much as Felix wanted to reject it, everyone seemed so excited to have a party and he didn't want to ruin the mood. So, he made sure to at least invite Noah and all the tribe chiefs that he had a good relationship with. Even Lord Hishas was invited. After Nemo's alter ego had stolen his pride and greed, he became the most pacifist and most chill elemental in the whole galaxy. With years going by, he became friends with all tribal chiefs and never looked back. During the party, we have heard rumors that the Alliance has found demons on the other side of the universe. Is that true? Chief Xander inquired with an intrigued tone. Yep. Felix pressed on his AP bracelet screen and manifested a hologram, showing those demons' appearances. They sure look like fiends. Chief Drogath commented. I am more curious about the evil energy. The ability to corrupt everything sure sounds like our nemesis. Since evil energy affected even environments, Felix felt a sudden chill course on his spine at the thought of evil energy corrupting elementals. Since they had consciousness, it meant that every energy would corrupt their minds and would force them to seek out purities just like the others. This would make even planets' consciousness seek out to devour purities from other planets and throw the entire peaceful galaxy into mayhem. As long as Formother exists, no such thing will ever invade our galaxy. Lord Hishas spoke lazily while drinking a pina colada with a straw, appearing like he was on vacation. True. Felix's worries faded away the moment he recalled that monstrous entity watching over the elementals. Whoosh. With a sudden flash of light, everyone turned around to look at the new arrival. Glad you can join us. Felix remarked with a faint chuckle after seeing Noah walking towards them with his usual expressionless face and snow covering his shoulders and hair. He was in his human form, showing absolutely no relation to werewolves whatsoever even though his true form was a clone of Fenrir. Noah nodded at everyone in greeting and sat next to Felix. Then, there was no then, he just remained silent throughout the whole conversation about the demons. Everyone was already familiar with his eccentricities, so no one paid him any attention. After a couple of hours, the party was concluded and everyone returned to their homes except Noah as he decided to stay in the village for the next few days. Felix also remained in the village to take somewhat of a break before he could restart his training from where he left off. He still needed to work on his gemstone and lightning manipulation. In addition to his dragon/devourer marks as he had brought with him many more natural treasures and elemental minerals than last time. In the past 3 years, he made Miriam collect them from the dwarves and the dragons. It was quite easy as many upper echelon dwarves were still her sex slaves in the shadows while the dragons had a debt to pay. While Felix was spending some quality time with his friends, his mortal enemies could be seen getting closer and closer to the capital planet of the first demon realm, Pandemonium. This realm was ruled by none other than the Demon King himself, Lucifer. Instead of descending to the planet, they went past it and continued on their journey. In a few hours, Sora stopped his spaceship and got out with his partners. Damn, I can feel the paragon of sin's intense pressure from here. Wendigo uttered with a deep frown as he stared at the gigantic void rift in front of him. Let's go fiend up Ted ovals on n/v/Elbin. Co/m. Mananangel traveled toward Demon King Lucifer who could be seen sitting in the same position as last time and in the exact location. He seemed like he didn't notice their presence as he kept his eyes closed shut, appearing like he was asleep. Wake up, demon. Soros ordered coldly as he applied some gravitational pressure on Lucifer. When he saw that Lucifer still didn't acknowledge their existence, he added more pressure but it seemed like Lucifer wasn't feeling it. That's enough, we don't want to kill him and waste time on finding him again. Wendigo said. Soros wasn't too pleased by this but he still retracted his pressure and Lucifer's body began its reparation. For him to not react, his consciousness must be in a different place. Wendigo uttered calmly as he moved to face Lucifer. We just need to bring it back. He is all yours. Soros knew that Wendigo's mastery over consciousness and souls was second to best in the universe. Hey. However, the moment Wendigo faced Lucifer and saw his facial features, he was left in absolute disbelief. In fact, if he wasn't so in control over his body, he would have killed him straight away. What's wrong? Soros and his partner knitted their eyebrows at his reaction and went next to him. When they saw the face of their most hated enemy, they couldn't help but feel stupefied. Eaglesnull, get it together, it's not him, though, the resemblance is just so, what's the proper word? Wendigo was the first to break out of his daze and analyze Lucifer's facial features. Eerie. Mananangel helped him out after he regained control over his slight agitation. Felix had truly put them through too much for them to react like this just from seeing his face in the most unexpected place. That bastard is really on our nerves wherever we go. Sora's eyelids twitched in irritation. Is this really a coincidence? What else? I don't know. Let's wake him up and find out. Wendigo uttered coldly. Just as he was about to use his darkness to invade Lucifer's mind, his yellowish eyes were unlocked in a sudden manner and it was followed by an intense release of the most potent evil energy. The Darkins defended themselves from the burst of evil energy but they were left startled when they noticed that it was so potent, it broke past their barriers. How is this possible? Soros exclaimed in shock as he found himself getting pushed back with his partners. The space around Lucifer seemed to crackle with malevolence as an intense gush of crimson-red mist swirled around him, emanating an aura of raw power and unfathomable corruption. The mist coiled and writhed, creating an oppressive atmosphere that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest souls. As the crimson mist swirled and coalesced, it seemed to meld with Lucifer's very essence, intensifying the corruption that emanated from him. His eyes, blazing like twin infernos, pierced through the mist, revealing profound wisdom tempered by eons of corruption. You dare bring your filth near my mother's resting place. Lucifer used his evil energy mist as a medium to voice his displeasure and resentment. Filth. Soros looked at his partners and pointed his finger at himself. Did he really just call us filth? You're free to teach him his place but do not kill him. Mananangel permitted, knowing that Soros had the shortest fuse of them all and he would never let such an insult slide. Don't worry, I have no plans to play too much with him. Soros snickered as he released his spiritual pressure, wanting to overpower Lucifer with it and cripple him. However, what happened next was enough to shock even the cool-headed Mananangel. Boom. Lucifer retaliated coldly with his own spiritual pressure, causing both auras to smash against each other in the middle and create a thundering explosion that sent the evil energy mist flying everywhere. Lucifer retaliated coldly with his own spiritual pressure, causing both auras to smash against each other in the middle and create a thundering explosion that sent the evil energy mist flying everywhere. When the deafening silence returned, it seemed like both parties were stunned by each other's ability to block the spiritual pressure. Don't tell me those are the primogenitors my mother told me about. Lucifer raised his guard to the limit as he kept gazing at the Darkins who still seemed unable to wake up from their shock. He is a deity, he is actually a deity. Saurus remarked loudly, what the hell is going on? He couldn't accept that Lucifer was at a deity level as he always knew that demons were just a bunch of hungry leeches with immortality, even the princes were nothing in his eyes and from the latest demonstration by Prince Beelzebub, it was understandable why he would feel this way. Something is off here. It's impossible for a demon to reach a deity level even if a primogenitor offered everything to help. Mananangal narrowed his eyes at the pitch-black darkness on the other side of the void rift. When his partners saw where he was looking, they couldn't help but feel a slight shiver in their spines. Do not tell me. 1311 Demon King Lucifer vs Gravity Primogenitor, Saurus. All of them came to the same conclusion that this was the doing of the Paragon of Sins as no one would be able to turn a mortal into a deity besides the Unigens with their mysterious ways. Demon, were you talking with anyone inside the void rift? Saurus halted his aggression as he asked with a stern tone. To have such audacity to barge in my sacred grounds, attack me, and now even question me with such tone, your arrogance sure knows no bounds. Lucifer replied with an indifferent look. Brat, stop testing our patience. Wendigo uttered coldly, you might be at a deity level, but it means nothing before us, so, answer the question while we are still being nice. Becoming a deity was merely stepping into the gates of the other side. It didn't mean that all deities were equal and those three had no problems with teaching Lucifer this lesson. How about you make me? Lucifer smiled coldly as he teleported away from the darkness well. It might have seemed like he teleported, but in reality, he was just so quick, he disappeared out of existence. But his primogenitors, the Darkins managed to track his movements and chase him down with irritated looks. A few moments later, Lucifer came to a sharp halt in the emptiness of space, having nothing around him. The moment the three primogenitors halted, Lucifer's eyes glowed with an eerie crimson light, emanating an aura of pure evil. His dark wings stretched wide, casting a shadow across the endless expanse of space. Wielding his power over corruption, he conjured sinister energy that swirled around him, ready to taint and defile anything it touched. The three primogenitors, each representing their unique elemental dominion, floated calmly in space, their presence commanding and majestic. A foolish decision. Saurus sneered as he raised his outstretched hands, invoking his mastery over gravity. Multiple space-time deformities appeared around Lucifer that were seen even in the utter darkness of space. Out of nowhere, those deformities spread apart and connected with each other, creating a somewhat transparent reversed star with Lucifer in the center. The star was almost hundreds of thousands of kilometers in size, making it close to impossible for Lucifer to escape from its creation range. Wendigo and Mananangal had already distanced themselves from Saurus as they had no plans on ganging up on a mere demon even if he was at a deity level. Gravity primogenitor, he must be Saurus. Lucifer uttered in his mind with a look of interest, seemingly not worried that he was surrounded by intense gravitational anomalies capable of wrecking even planets from the inside out. Boy, I won't repeat myself again. Saurus asked with an icy tone, are you willing to cooperate peacefully? He was also locked inside the gravitational star, but since he had gravity immunity, he had nothing to worry about. Lucifer merely smirked in response. It's your funeral. Without an ounce of hesitation, Saurus closed his outstretched hand into a fist. The moment he did so, all of the star sign endings released powerful pressuring gravitational waves capable of flattening even celestial bodies. Even the fabric of space seemed to be affected by them as it was turned wavy like heat waves in a desert. Pandemonium's grasp. Lucifer tapped into the depths of his wicked power, causing his very essence to surge with malevolent energy. The corrupted tendrils of his dark aura snaked through space, hungrily seeking to corrupt and disrupt the natural order of gravity. When the gravitational waves collided with those tendrils, an intense battle between them occurred. The gravitational waves tried to crash them while the tendrils seemed like they were feeding on gravity, as they kept multiplying while turning bigger. The most shocking part? The gravitational waves were weakened continuously until they reached Lucifer with barely 1% of their original powers. How? Impossible. Hey. The three Darkins shared a similar dumbfounded expression. Just like Lady Sphinx and other primogenitors, they weren't too familiar with evil energy as it was never used by the Paragon of Sins in public. This meant all their information about it was related to the demons and from their understanding, evil energy couldn't interact with forces or concept elements due to it being an energy base. In other words, Lucifer should be hopeless against gravity attacks. Alas, Lucifer didn't seem like he had any plans to explain the situation. My turn. Eaglesnow Lucifer smiled wickedly as he sent forth those gigantic crimson tendrils in the direction of Saurus. Saurus' instincts were a bit rusty from not fighting an equal opponent for a very long time, but they still warned him in time that he shouldn't let those creepy things get hold of him. Saurus manifested two supermassive transparent gravitational swords and started slashing back and forth with a cold look. His hand wasn't connected to the swords and he didn't need them to be as they were doing a fine job of keeping those tendrils away from him. However, with each clash, the tendrils exploded into clouds of crimson evil energy before merging back with the remaining tendrils and making them much tougher. What the hell is going on with the universe? Wendigo uttered with widened eyes, how can a demon obtain this kind of strength? How can anyone obtain this kind of strength? Mananangal narrowed his eyes, we are primogenitors and we have been gifted for a reason. Yet, this demon and that brat seem to be hacking the system. In the eyes of the Darkins, it shouldn't be possible for mortals to cross the deity limit no matter what they did in their lives. Felix being in his trajectory to cross it was already a miracle in their eyes that shouldn't have happened. Now, even a demon pulled it off and without anyone knowing about it. It has to be the Paragon of Sins doing, he either has awakened and did this to cause even more chaos or this demon must have taken something from him. While those two were analyzing this unbelievable scene, Saurus and Lucifer's epic battle was getting too heated. You're starting to piss me off. Peeved at his inability to end this battle, Saurus raised his hand, summoning forth the immense power he wielded. His will commanded the gravitational forces that bound the cosmos together. Planets trembled and stars swayed from a distance, as he channeled the unimaginable strength of the universe's gravitational field. With a mighty gesture, Saurus launched an onslaught of cosmic might at Lucifer. Gravity wells materialized, swirling torrents of immense force, they converged upon the Demon King, threatening to crush him with irresistible pressure. But Lucifer was no ordinary foe. He weaved through the onslaught, his wicked grin unyielding. His corrupted energy surged forth, corrupting the very fabric of the gravitational forces, distorting them into chaotic anomalies. Gravity wells twisted, their once predictable nature morphing into uncontrollable vacuums of destruction. Saurus, unyielding in his resolve, focused his celestial power, seeking to restore balance to the cosmic chaos Lucifer wrought on the battlefield. His eyes glowed with otherworldly brilliance as he summoned an immense gravitational sphere, a celestial embodiment of his indomitable strength. Your F-forward stories on /o/v/lbn.cm. Saurus directed its fury towards Lucifer, seeking to draw him into its gravitational grip. But Lucifer, ever defiant, tapped into his wicked power, summoning forth an army of corrupted asteroids and debris to shield him from its pull. As Lucifer and Saurus clashed, the battleground became a chaotic ballet of corrupted power source and celestial forces. Enough. In a final act of cosmic harmony, Saurus unleashed a cataclysmic display of power with an infuriated glare. Gravity surged into a single dot, warping reality itself. When Wendigo and Mananangle saw this, their faces turned black all of a sudden. Bastard. Are you trying to get us killed too? Wendigo cursed his partner who seemed to have lost it and wanted nothing but to end this humiliation with one final attack. Let's go, he isn't going to listen. Mananangle didn't hesitate to take his partner with him and get as far as possible from the battlefield. Even Lucifer couldn't help but knit his eyebrows at the sight of intense gravitational waves spinning around themselves at a tiny dot. Because he was somewhat near it, he could feel himself getting pulled against his will. You might be a deity, but you are still a mere newborn in my eyes. Now, feast your eyes on what separates mortals from deities. Saurus called out loud as he pointed his finger at the tiny dot. Abruptly, a singularity roared to life, an all-consuming vortex of swirling energy, threatening to swallow even the darkness that pervaded the universe. When Wendigo and Mananangle looked at it from a far distance, it appeared like a tiny black hole in a canvas of the starry sky, like its existence did not belong in reality. This was Saurus's one and only ultimate ability, black hole manifestation. 1312 I have no soul. Crap. Lucifer's confidence faltered, for he realized the gravity of his impending doom. With each passing moment, the irresistible pull of the black hole grew stronger, its gravitational might tugging at his essence, threatening to consume him. He fought against the inescapable grasp, his ethereal wings outstretched, desperately attempting to push back against the all-encompassing void. But his efforts were futile as he was too close to comfort. The tendrils of darkness reached out, their inky grip latching onto Lucifer's form. It was as if 1,000 serpentine coils coiled around him, constricting his every movement, drawing him ever closer to the event horizon, the point of no return. Lucifer's eyes widened in defiance as he desperately struggled for survival. His powerful corrupted energy flickered and waned, unable to match the vast power of the cosmic abyss that ensnared him. A primogenitor's ultimate ability used by its own creator was not a joke. As the event horizon drew near, time itself seemed to slow. Lucifer's visage contorted in agony as the intense gravitational forces distorted his very form. Instead of breaking into a mixture of flesh and blood, he turned into a cloud of crimson energy as it disappeared into the pitch-black darkness of the hole. That's what you get, sh*tty brat. Saurus scoffed with a displeased expression while closing the black hole. When his partners noticed this from a distance, they regrouped with him. Was the black hole necessary? Wendigo said with an irritated tone. More than you think. Saurus narrowed his eyes coldly as he recalled his battle and Lucifer's face. The fact that Lucifer looked like Felix made it harder for him to accept the battle going on for even an additional minute. Ralat stchpters on n/v/l/b.i.cm. It made him feel a bad taste in his mouth, like when he finally fought with Felix, the battle wouldn't be as one-sided as he wanted. That gave him the creeps and made it hard for him to accept. Well, now we have to search for that prick again. Wendigo dropped the subject with an annoyed sigh. They knew that Lucifer wasn't dead and he would be revived somewhere. Let's return to that void rift first, I want to test something. Mananangle said. After a few minutes, the three Darkans arrived at the darkness well. They didn't know what to think when they noticed Lucifer sitting in front of it in a mediation position like their previous epic battle was a mere dream. Don't the demon princes need evil energy and some of their DNA to revive? Wendigo inquired. That's what we know, but this prick is clearly different from every other demon. Saurus' eyelids twitched. When Lucifer sensed their arrival, he opened his eyes and turned around. He gave them an indifferent look and said, I have to admit that primogenitors are stronger than I anticipated, but if you think you can beat me for eternity, you are gravely mistaken. Brat, it's best that you lower your ego a notch. Saurus sneered, you are lucky we didn't send Wendigo to deal with you. Otherwise, he would have shattered your soul. Unlike those two, Wendigo's mastery over souls made him capable of using his darkness element to completely dominate the mental grounds. The darkness element might not be as great as others, but in the right hands? Even other primogenitors treated Wendigo with respect as they knew that their souls would be endangered. When it came to souls, whether it was a primogenitor or a mortal, they would suffer from the same fate if one wasn't capable of defending it. You guys still don't get it. Lucifer shook his head, you can use whatever you want on me. I will still come back. You're bluffing. Saurus frowned, you can't possess true immortality as a mere demon. I have no soul, so I beg to differ. Before Lucifer could finish off his sentence, Wendigo released a thin string of darkness that instantly penetrated Lucifer's forehead. Although no blood was released, Lucifer's eyes turned completely black. It can't be, he really has no soul. Wendigo was left startled when his darkness ability came back with no results. You can't be serious. How can someone be alive and have the strength of a deity without a soul? Soros knitted his eyebrows. He already used his spiritual pressure and we know damn well it can't exist without a soul. Soros wasn't freaked out about Lucifer's ability to speak without a soul as he knew that he might have a mere consciousness residing within. Consciousness wasn't the same as a soul. I am not making this up, he really has no soul. Maybe he has it on a different body and is hiding it. I don't know, his consciousness is too powerful to be a mere wisp. Wendigo shook his head. As he pulled his darkness string, Lucifer's eyes returned to normal. He had somewhat of an irritated expression. Can you please leave now? I don't plan on wasting my time on a needless fight. The Darkins looked at each other with confused expressions, finding it harder and harder to understand Lucifer's existence. What are you? Mananangle asked with a serious tone. At this point, no one bothered to consider him a demon anymore even when his entire appearance and demeanor screamed a demon. Will you leave if I tell you? Lucifer bargained. After Soros used his ultimate ability to kill him, Lucifer understood that it would be extremely difficult for him to defeat them simultaneously, which meant his time would be spent on them. If it wasn't for this, he wouldn't have softened his tone. No, we are here to fulfill a mission. What's that? Lucifer asked. He just remembered that those three must have approached him for something instead of just alienating him. Mananangle glanced at his partners and beamed hundreds of large shipment containers, making Lucifer raise his eyebrow in surprise. Is that the AP bracelet device? He might not have participated in the war and ignored everyone's calls, but he still knew almost everything going on due to his lifetime mission being related to it. We have been sent to help your race join the UVR. Soros said, as their leader, we want you to handle it. Sent by who? The SG Alliance? That can't be right. Even though Lucifer was new to the SG Alliance, he was certain that they had no intentions of allying with his race. In addition, they shouldn't have enough authority to send 3 primogenitors as their deliverymen. You don't need to know. Mananangle said calmly, all you need to know is that the SG Alliance has no information about this and that those bracelets are outside of the system. Outside of the system. Lucifer got intrigued. In other words, the SG Alliance has no control over them and they can't order Queen AI to do anything about it. You can enter the UVR and do whatever you want as long as you do not draw too much suspicion on you. With Loki's UVR access seemingly far out-leveling even the 10 rulers, it wasn't too far-fetched that he could make AP bracelets for even enemies and the SG Alliance would have no idea about it. Even Queen AI would keep her mouth shut if Loki wanted her. Interesting. Lucifer asked, why are you doing this? Are you planning on bringing down the SG Alliance? Enough with the questions. Soros said with an irked tone, you want them or not? Lucifer thought about it for a moment before nodding his head, much appreciated. He didn't care too much about arming his people with the AP bracelets, he wanted to access the UVR to learn more about his other half and perfect his plan. The Darkins might not know of his true purpose, but they weren't foolish to give him the bracelets and not oversee the operation. Equalsnell after all, the last thing they needed was to anger Lord Loki as well. Hand them over to your people and make them understand the dos and the don'ts. Wendigo uttered as he beamed those containers back and threw the bracelet to Lucifer. Will do. Lucifer nodded after catching the bracelet and placing it on his wrist. So, how do I use this exactly? Tell us first about you. Mananangle interrogated with a series of questions, what are you and why did you refer to this place as your mother's resting ground? Are you referring to the Paragon of Sins? If so, is he/she awake? 1313 manipulating Lucifer to join the war. All I can tell you is that I am a natural-born demon, as for why am I different than my brothers? Lucifer replied calmly, I am simply more unique as a firstborn. That's it. Soros and his partners weren't too pleased with his answers as they provided nothing of value. What about the Paragon of Sins? Mananangle pressed on this matter more. I have no clue who is this Paragon of Sins you are talking about. Lucifer answered truthfully. How can you not know him when you are sitting in front of his slumbering area? Wendigo frowned. Are they referring to my mother? Is she called the Paragon of Sins? Why are they mistaking her for a male? Lucifer was left somewhat confused. When the Darkins saw his genuine bewilderment, they realized that he might really have no idea about the Paragon of Sins. Maybe the Paragon didn't share anything about himself. Or maybe he is still asleep as we expect and a void creature is using the demon's ignorance to fool him into believing that he is their mother. Wendigo suggested, after all, they do assume that the demon god is residing behind this void rift. That's plausible, but it won't explain how he has gotten his strength. Knowing that only Lucifer held all the answers, the Darkins had no plans on leaving before solving this mystery. Were you talking with anyone inside the void rift? If you were, can you call them for us? Mananangle inquired. You are asking too many questions. Lucifer got somewhat irritated. I can talk to you about myself, but leave my mother out of this. If it was someone else, the Darkins would have already jumped on him and began using force to extract information. Alas, Lucifer was capable of defending himself against them as well as reviving infinitely, making him fearless before anything. Let's drop it for now, we can find out more about the Paragon of Sins when we get close to him. Wendigo suggested. We have all the time in the universe. Soros and Mananangle agreed to his proposal as they weren't planning to leave this side of the universe anytime soon. I think we should manipulate him to deal with that prick. Soros smiled coldly, he will have absolutely no clue that the Demon King Lucifer is a deity and this will get him killed if they ever met. No one seemed to know about Lucifer's true strength as even his brothers were underestimating him immensely. After all, if he showed them that he could kill them through a mere glance, none of them would have dared to have a single thought about the throne. It does seem like a good strategy, but that bastard doesn't look like he has any intentions of stepping on the 7 demon realms with his main body. Wendigo frowned. We just need to make him have no other option but to do so. Soros smirked. How do we do that exactly? Leave it to me. Soros looked at Lucifer and asked, you seem a bit too relaxed, are you even aware of the situation your race is facing? They will be fine. Lucifer uttered nonchalantly. I don't think so. Soros shook his head, you have no idea what kind of enemy your race is facing. Everything that happened in the past months was nothing but an interlude. The SG Lions hasn't even used 10% of their true strength and they still managed to conquer almost all of the 7th Demon Realm. Give them a bit more time to prepare and perfect their strategy and the remaining Demon Realms will fall as well. All of this happening without even needing their leader to make a personal move. Is that so? Lucifer narrowed his eyes in focus. The last sentence had gotten into him as he based his entire future on Felix's entry to the 7 Demon Realms. How can you be so sure that their leader won't come here? Lucifer inquired as he gazed into their eyes. We just know. Saurus didn't want to let him know that they had a conflict between them and Felix to avoid having him realize that they were manipulating him. Although his answer wasn't satisfactory one bit, Lucifer still decided to trust in their words for one simple reason. I can't let anything jeopardize my future. If my people can't handle the war and force him to appear, I just have to force him on my own. Lucifer declared with a cold expression. When the Darkins saw his change of attitude on the matter, they looked at each other with hidden glints in their eyes. We just need to keep an eye on him now. Even if someone he didn't manage to kill that bastard, we will take it from there. That's right. The Darkins understood that having a deity participating in a mortal war would automatically make it one-sided. Don't even mention Lucifer, who couldn't be harmed or killed and even had the ability to demonize armies and make them his loyal subjects. If he made his move, he would either push the SG Lions into surrendering and have an early exit from the 7 Demon Realms or force out Felix and the other strongest fighters to handle him. The SG Lions could never surrender. A couple of months later, the situation in the 7th Demon Realm Tartarus was still peaceful. The SG Lions hadn't made any drastic invasions on either Prince Beelzebub's capital planet or on other demon realms. However, the 7th Demon Realm could be said now to have completely fallen into the Scullions' hands. Almost all lesser demons had been eradicated and other races freed and joined the alliance. The planets were being developed at a rapid pace with cities, towns, and military bases, raising up akin to mushrooms in a forest. One could say that everything was going smoothly on the Scullions' side. But, unbeknownst to them, the demons in other realms weren't waiting with folded arms for the executioners to arrive. Ralat stch on n/v//l b I. cm. Demon King Lucifer had made his presence known to his brothers in his realm. He had also handed out many containers filled with bracelets to his brothers, who in turn had shared them with their people. Right now, the demons possessed all sorts of knowledge about the SG Alliance, making them prepare for the war even better. But still no one made the first move and the peace seemed like it would last for a very long time. On the other side of the universe, Felix had emptied his mind of anything related to the war as he embarked on a new journey to Thunder Tribe. He wanted to work on his lightning elemental manipulation and give it at least 500 years to match his other advanced elements. Although he found it a bit difficult to handle their asshole chief, with everyone's recommendation and Felix's good reputation, he ended up getting accepted to the tribe and even received some help from the chief. As he was working out, Lady Sphinx was also investing her time in fulfilling the miracle of having Felix add another bloodline before hitting the origin realm. Unbeknownst to Felix and the others, she was working on this project by using the clone inside the Elemental's galaxy. This meant she had spent hundreds of years on this project. Is this really the only method available? Lady Sphinx murmured as she paced in her portal lab. She lifted her head and read some gibberish data on a screen before focusing on Felix's perfect clone that was lying on the surgery table in front of her. All other methods were deemed as a failure and even when one of them succeeded, it resulted in terrible side effects after he reached the origin realm. Lady Sphinx pondered. Isn't this still better than nothing? He might lose a mutation in some of his strength, but it will help him gain much more. Elder Stravi shared his opinion as he watched her work through the wall. Lady Sphinx was used to him watching and allowed him to do it freely since he never bothered her. But, I will be putting him in a difficult position where he has to give up on a permanent mutation, ability, and anything related to that bloodline. Lady Sphinx massaged her temples, with the bloodline's owners residing in his mind. It's an extremely tough position. Snell, I don't know. Elder Stravi said casually, in my eyes, he shouldn't care too much about such things and chose the best option that will enable him to move further in his life. If it meant giving up on a bloodline? So, be it. I suppose. Lady Sphinx also shared the same view, but she knew that Felix wouldn't think of it in this way when those bloodlines and their masters had helped him through his journey. But, as a scientist and a researcher, her job was over the moment she found a plausible method to pull off another bloodline. What came next depended on Felix alone. I guess it's time to break out the news. Lady Sphinx said calmly as she watched her student trying his best to train his lightning manipulation. 1314 a difficult choice. On the other side of the planet, Felix could be seen sitting at the highest point on a rugged snowy mountainous chain. Rumble rumble. The sky above was gloomy and the noise of the thunderclaps never seemed to stop. However, those thunderclaps weren't really just hurtful noises, but they had some sort of a musical rhythm to them like the sky was singing its soul out. Felix wasn't surprised by any of this as he knew that the Tempers Terrace were communicating with each other through pulsing their electric essence in rhythmic patterns, creating cascades of thunderous sound that carry meaning and emotion. The language of the thunder was an art among the tribe, each member seeking to perfect their own voice with its unique timbre and resonance. The Tempsterii were one of the few tribes of lightning elementals who dwell in the roiling thunderstorms above the highest peaks of the Aristoke Mountains. Born from the raw energy of storm and sky, their ephemeral bodies flicker with vibrant electric blue hues, their forms often branching out like fractal tendrils of lightning itself. Ne/W novel chapters are published on no/vel/bin.co/m. Though the exact count of their numbers was elusive, their aggregate energy was powerful enough to light the darkest nights and shatter the stillness with their thunders. Felix decided to remain on top of the mountain instead of joining the tribe in the thunderclouds since he couldn't remain in the air permanently. Brat, it's time for your daily enhancement. Chief Zoltan suddenly manifested before Felix as a humanoid figure made out of golden electrical discharges. I am under your care. Felix smiled as he watched the tribe chief push purified lightning energy through him. Felix had made sure to bribe the tribe chief with plenty of food that he brought with him to secure his help when it came to improving lightning affinity. After a while, Chief Zoltan returned to the sky the moment he was done with his end of the bargain. Just as Felix wanted to test out the new range of his lightning manipulation, Lady Sphinx disclosed calmly, Felix, come down here. All right. No questions asked, Felix entered his consciousness space and went straight to Lady Sphinx, who was sitting at the round table with a few tenants. I will get straight to the point. I have found out a method that will help you add another bloodline. Hey? What? How? Felix's eyes widened in disbelief as he didn't expect such a statement at all. It was understandable since Lady Sphinx hadn't told him that she was working on a method to help him add another bloodline in the first place to not raise his hopes for nothing. Interesting. You actually found a solution. Asna and the rest of the tenants dropped whatever was in their hands and joined the conversation with clear intrigue on their faces. Even Lord Shiva seemed somewhat interested. The kid can get to deity level easily by hitting the origin realm at his current condition. But, if he pulled it off with another bloodline and left the origin realm's enhancement after becoming a deity, what kind of monster will he become? Maybe he isn't as hopeless as I thought. Lord Shiva might have shown absolutely no interest in Felix and considered him and his masters delusional to think that he has it in him to kill those beings, but he still did extensive research on him in the shadows. After reading his memories thoroughly, he was just as knowledgeable about Felix's potential and path as the others, or probably even more, but it still didn't change his first decision that Felix would never reach those beings' level. Though, this development somewhat changed everything. Remember the bit of space left in your human bloodline? While it can't fit the DNA of another bloodline without causing it to crumble, I did my research and found a method to take advantage of it. How? Felix asked with an eager tone. I didn't find a method to add another bloodline, but I did find a way to empty some room for a new bloodline to be added. Lady Sphinx shared, the only thing you need to do is choose a bloodline and I will rearrange your DNA to remove the related genome sequences related to it, which will give you back some space for a new and complete bloodline. Remove a bloodline. Felix was left stunned. He never expected that it was possible to even do anything about an already edged ability in his human bloodline since the change was considered permanent. Don't even mention replacing one of the bloodlines that were a big part of his journey. This is the only way forward if you desired to add a new bloodline. Lady Sphinx said, otherwise, you should focus on your breakthrough to the origin realm. That's really a tough decision to make. Thor remarked. Can we know more details? Asna asked with a serious tone. Because I will be breaking the Chosen's ability genome sequences to create enough space, you will be losing it completely in addition to any mutation related to that bloodline. Obviously, all the enhancements obtained due to the etching process will also be gone plus any indirect caused effect in your bloodline path. Lady Sphinx disclosed, this means it's more favorable to choose the earliest bloodlines to minimize the negatives. While Lady Sphinx made it sound too simple, Felix and the others knew that it was nowhere near that. Choosing the earliest bloodlines to remove such as Jurmai's, Thor's, Lady Sphinx, and even Koa's bloodlines implied getting rid of their replacement enhancements. Since these enhancements were nowhere close to reaching their full potential like Felix's latest bloodlines due to his body's limitation being 2sh*TTY at the start, he wouldn't lose too much. However, Hormongondra's size manipulation couldn't be given up as it would be one of Felix's greatest weapons in celestial battles. Lady Sphinx's truth vision was also too important to be given up on as it was one of the best ultimate abilities a primogenitor could own. Lady Sphinx had shown just a bit of its true danger when she used quantum invasion against Lord Hesius. Though, Thor and Kao's bloodlines weren't of the same importance due to the abilities edged. Will it be possible to hit a deity level with another bloodline replacement even though I will be losing a great deal of power? Felix asked. The choice was extremely difficult to make and if going through all of this and he wouldn't hit a deity level, he would rather not commit to it. If we assume that you will lose 50k more or less due to your bloodline replacement affecting your overall strength in general, you will be at 750k more or less. With a new bloodline added to the mix while your body's limitation is at this level, you should be hitting 950k minimum since the last 100k BF is much more difficult to push through. I understand. Although it sounded weird that Felix would be getting a 200k BF increase more or less just like in his previous replacement, he understood that the final 100k was special. The fact that it would be possible to get at least 50k closed in it was already something worth celebrating. In the case of people, this remaining 50k should be unbridgeable, but with your Devourer and Dragon marks providing you with a flat increase unaffected by your current body limitation, you will be able to push through it easily. Lady Sphinx said, so, there is an extremely high chance of becoming a deity without needing the insane enhancement from the origin realm. You should go for it even if it meant choosing my bloodline to remove. Thor stated with a serious tone, you must take advantage of those opportunities as you won't be finding any after you hit deity level. He is right. Hormongandr supported, it's not a choice anymore of whether you should do it or not, it's a choice of what bloodline you should be replacing. I can see that. Felix showed a bitter smile. 1315 two options left. Felix was too rational to give up on this opportunity to do a big loyal gesture to the tenants by keeping their bloodlines, though, this didn't mean that he was loving the predicament he was put in. I don't know, void immunity is a must while lightning quick reflexes helped me get an edge in battles and also during potion making. Felix seemed distressed as the choice wasn't easy to make in the slightest. You should consider my bloodline too. Carbuncle volunteered himself with a lazy tone, you aren't making the best out of my ultimate ability as it doesn't fit with your fighting style in the slightest. Elder. Felix wanted to retort but he found out that he was absolutely right. While Crystallization Beam was an amazing ultimate ability on its own since it could crystallize solid, liquid, and even gases to a desired gemstone, it didn't fit his new fighting style. After all, why bother to crystallize something when you could just absolutely demolish it? But, in the hands of Carbuncle, he could crystallize entire planets and even stars and manipulate them. But, if I choose your bloodline, I will be losing root gemstone and a much more considerable strength reduction than what was calculated. Felix wasn't too convinced yet as it felt like he would be losing too much. If he wasn't certain that his gemstone manipulation would remain, he wouldn't have bothered to consider this option. After all, gemstone manipulation was related to his gemstone affinity and not the bloodline itself. Well, bestowing life upon your golems isn't too useful at your current stage. Asna shrugged her shoulders, though the strength reduction can be a problem. A big problem. Lady Sphinx said, you might even not make it to 900k as you will possibly lose 100k overall strength boost at once. As the fifth bloodline used, it sure boosted Felix's strength by quite a significant amount when considering the overall enhancement. The overall enhancement referred to new limitations Felix's body possessed after the replacement, which enabled him to get even stronger. If it was as simple as removing the known base increase, there wouldn't be much of a problem. Even if you aren't using crystallization often, there will be a day when you will need it. I always told you to cherish those ultimate abilities as you won't be able to create one unless you invested hundreds of millions of your time. Thor declared with a convinced tone, the best decision is clearly to replace my bloodline. Master. Felix was taken aback. Don't look at me that way. Thor chuckled, you have etched nothing but a mere passive that you can easily master on your own in the next centuries if you put your mind to it. It's not even an advanced ability. Thor had a point here as lightning quick reflexes passive was amazing alright when Felix first learned it. But now that his reflexes and thinking process was getting closer to a deity level, even if he used it, it wouldn't give him too much of an edge due to his reaction speed already nearing its limit. After all, anything beyond the limit meant having the ability to predict the future instead of reacting to the present. As for using it for potions concoction, his normal reaction speed already enabled him to be faster than the dark reaction speed in every concoction process. But, if I replaced your bloodline, I will be losing your mutation as well. Felix sought to keep this mutation in the first place, which was one of the major reasons why he had chosen this passive instead of lightning transmutation. Follow EOS stories at nvl/by/n.com. My mutation is amazing if you are purely a lightning elementalist since you will be able to absorb your own attacks and use them as fuel again, but that's clearly far from the case with you. Thor reasoned with a faint smile. Felix's tongue was caught again as he realized that he had indeed stopped relying on it lately because he always had better options to handle his enemies. Felix would never make it harder for him just to use an ability or a mutation. It still feels weird to replace Thor's bloodline as he is your master. Asuna was on Felix's side in this matter. She had no problems with replacing Carbuncle or Cow's bloodlines since they weren't really that close to Felix or participated as much in his development. Cow's was literally non-existent while Carbuncle simply couldn't be bothered as he was always stoned. How about Cow's bloodline? Asuna suggested, I think you can afford to lose your void immunity at the moment since you have destruction immunity, void suit, and other alternatives to protect yourself from void energy. True. Felix soon frowned, but, it will be a painful experience if I ever entered a void realm without my suit. Felix had already tested if his destruction immunity could protect him from void energy and other harmful substances in the UVR. He did so by removing his void immunity. The results were pretty interesting as he found out that the void energy could not destroy his body, but the pain of the process remained. It was like void energy was trying to disintegrate him and reach total destruction of his body, but his immunity was actively stopping it. In other words, it wasn't really an immunity to void energy but it was enough to let him remain alive. I suggest that you drop this choice. Lady Sphinx said before Felix could make a decision. Why? During my research, I have found out that it's possible to replace void immunity with a void domain without having nasty side effects like the last time. Lady Sphinx shared, since a void domain makes anything inside of it utterly destroyed in the blink of an eye just like a destruction domain, it means that your destruction immunity will act the same as void immunity when you activate it. In other words, there is no need to have both void immunity and void domain together, which made the original problem get solved much easier. Originally, Lady Sphinx had given up on adding a void domain in Felix's arsenal before he reached Origin Realm since nothing she did work. However, with the destruction immunity being added to the mix and 3 centuries of researching and perfecting Felix's 1% human bloodline, she found out that it was more than possible to replace an edged ability with another as long as they belonged to the same bloodline. This was something that even the cultivation system owners had absolutely no idea if it was possible. So, you are telling him that he needs to keep his void immunity so it can be replaced later on with void domain? Asuna asked for confirmation. Lady Sphinx nodded. Void domain, it's been really a long while. Felix could not help but get somewhat excited at the news. Others might easily forget how dominant the void domain was but Felix never forgot a single moment when he had it. It was simply one of the scariest abilities in the universe and even when he used it at a low level in its weakened state, he terrorized his enemies. Now, there was finally a real chance of it coming back and Felix would be foolish to give up on it. Soon, his stimulation returned to rock bottom after he realized that only 2 potential choices remained, Thor's bloodline and Carbuncle's bloodline. When Lady Sphinx noticed that Felix was having trouble making a decision, she shared, there is no need to rush in your decision as you won't be replacing your bloodline anytime soon. You are right. Felix relaxed his tense shoulders, planning to leave this problem to his future self. After all, even if he wanted to replace his bloodline right now, he couldn't do it because of one person, Lord Shiva. As long as Lord Shiva wasn't convinced that Felix was worthy to receive his destruction manipulation, he wouldn't hand it to him. This meant Felix would be forced to etc. destruction immunity instead of his powerful ultimate ability. Felix had no intentions of losing out on destruction manipulation. He wants the same thing as me, the death of those beings. Felix narrowed his eyes in focus as he eyed Lord Shiva who was sunbathing in front of his house with sunglasses on. If this means I have to go the extra mile to show him my worthiness, then so be it. 1316 1 year of peace. It didn't take Felix long before he got accustomed to his new environment and improved his lightning manipulation in addition to mastering new abilities and even restarting his training on the advanced ability, lightning transmutation. Years gone by and before long a couple of decades were concluded. Meanwhile, barely a few months passed on the outside and the war was still in its preparation stage as neither party seemed interested in making the first move anytime soon. While Felix was seeing an insane level of improvement in his lightning manipulation, the same couldn't be said about Noah. You are nearing your body's limitation and it will be getting harder and harder for you to get stronger just by a little. Fenrir shared with an indifferent tone as he eyed his student who was huffing with great difficulty while lying on the ground in his werewolf form. Noah remained quiet and kept staring at the starry sky. He didn't need his master to tell him this as he could feel it on his own in the past decades. Werewolf's cultivation system merely helped the user to reach his body's limitations unlike replacement enhancements and other boosting methods that actually improve the limitation as well. When Noah became an origin bloodliner, his limitation became capped at around 800k more or less and after all of his hard work in this galaxy, he was now at 695k BF after his latest test. After all, he was considered a semi-primogenitor and his limitation should bring honor to that title. However, because he had already entered the origin realm and could be considered reaching his body's full potential, he understood that it would be close to impossible to get stronger than 800K unless he received a miracle. Right now, he was actually struggling to even hit the 800K mark since it was merely his new limitation, but it didn't mean that it was easy to reach it. You have to find much tougher opponents to defeat to keep ironing your muscles. You have already cleared out the North Pole from any worthy challenges. Fenrir said calmly, it's time to leave the planet and seek new challenges. Noah nodded in agreement. He had spent close to 2,000 years on this planet and mostly at the North Pole, making him memorize every snowflake on this continent. Since both of them hated nonsense and wasting time, they announced their departure to Elder Stravi and received recommendations to other planets with much more powerful and monstrous creatures. Miss Monica gave them permission to go for it as she had already dropped her suspicion of Felix's party and gave them the freedom to do as they pleased. Sphinx, I need your help. Fenrir requested telepathically as he sat next to her in Felix's consciousness space. Let me guess. Lady Sphinx replied calmly as she continued reading her book, you want me to find a method for your student to have a shot at becoming a deity? Yes. Fenrir narrowed his eyes. When he reaches his limit, I am certain he will do something dumb to seek out new ways to increase his strength. My apologies, but I have already given it a go and found out that there is really nothing to be done. Lady Sphinx shook her head. His DNA is considered complete and perfect now that he is at the origin realm. Even if I want to mess with it, I will just make his situation worse. Lady Sphinx wasn't a miracle worker even if she seemed like it. All experiments that she ran on Felix succeeded only because he still had room for improvement and his potential had yet to be tapped completely. If he was also in the origin realm, she would have never touched his DNA. Is there really no other way? Your boy's foundation was too weak, resulting in the final building not having that many floors. I can't do anything to add more floors without causing the entire building to collapse. I see. Fenrir thought about it for a moment before adding, what if he found something that can break his limitation? Like what? I don't know, a heart, a bloodline, or anything. Hearts and bloodlines won't work since his DNA is perfect as I said. Lady Sphinx shook her head. We just have to find another method then. Although Fenrir knew that it would take a miracle for Noah to reach a deity level unlike Felix who could do it anytime he wanted as long as he break through the origin realm, he still had no plans to give up. He knew that his student wouldn't take no for an answer and would never give up on seeking new ways to get stronger, so he might as well help him out. Good luck, you will need it. Lady Sphinx wished as she glanced at his disappearing back. Registered trademark KK time went by swiftly and in no time, an entire year had gone by ever since the Battle of Tartarus ended. The peace that had lasted for an entire year and it seemed to be on the verge of being broken. The SG Alliance had finally prepared a much bigger army capable of attacking all 7 demon realms at once while ensuring that their foundation in Tartarus was unshakable. Though, their subtle final preparation hadn't gone unnoticed by the demons. Inside a smoke-scented chamber buzzed with a palpable energy, the kind that sent shivers crawling up the spine of any mortal who dared come close. 7 seats could be seen circling the table. Each throne bespoke the unique nature of its occupant, a testament to their power, their proclivity, and their place in this sinister hierarchy. This time, all 7 princes were attending the meeting. The war is about to start for real and we have only one chance of winning without losing all of our territories in the process. Prince Satan remarked coldly, so, respect your role in the plan, and don't **ck it up. Speak for yourself. Prince Beelzebub spoke with a suppressed irked tone. Follow the latest novels n/felben.com. He was the biggest loser out of this war for now as he had lost all of his territories and was left with nothing but the capital. Stop whining already, when we win this war we will have more territories in hand, we will be giving them out for free. Prince Belphegor said with a glint in his eyes. After everything they had seen in the UVR, the princes were more eager and excited than ever. More territories being available beyond the eternal darkness was already great news for them. The fact that there were an unfathomable number of races on the other side made them feel like they were living in a closed-shut well. Don't get too excited, our hopes to win this war lays heavily on Lucifer succeeding in what he claims. Prince Mammon eyed Lucifer with a solemn expression. When they heard so, everyone turned to look at Lucifer with the same expression. Lucifer didn't seem to care about them as he had his eyes closed shut, appearing like he was meditating. When they saw him like this, all of them had irritated looks. He is doing it again. Is he actively trying to piss us off? Arrogant prick. Ever since Lucifer had returned from his seclusion, he never bothered to say more than 2 words out loud and spent the entire time meditating just like he was before the darkness well. If it was not for them needing his supermassive demon army, they would have already given him crap for his attitude. Meanwhile, Lucifer hadn't heard a single thing ever since he sat on the chair. The day is getting nearer and nearer, the day of my ascension. He just kept murmuring those statements in his mind while envisioning Felix's face. This was the only thing that mattered to him as he couldn't care less even if all the demons in the universe were slaughtered if it meant fulfilling his motive. The 6 princes had no clue that they're merely pawns in his plan as they thought that he had returned to protect the demon realms. Are we all set? Commander Nethril inquired with a stern tone. He was standing in the mothership's cockpit, overseeing the super-universal army he had prepared for this very moment. All generals have reported back their readiness. His subordinate reported. Commander Nethril narrowed his eyes coldly as he uttered, let's start the second round and show them what we truly are made of. As he said so, the gigantic mothership began moving forward in the direction of more than 20 lined-up wormholes waiting for the super space fleet army. The grandeur of the armada was reflected in the cold void of space, an endless parade of steel and shimmering energy that stretched on as far as the eye could see. A magnificent spectacle of formidable military might, it boasted dreadnoughts, battlecruisers, frigates, destroyers, fighters, and carriers, all teeming with advanced AI drones and elite starfighter pilots. If this wasn't enough to showcase the seriousness of the SG Alliance, there were 7 planet destroyer weapons at the very back of the formations. Each planet destroyer was going to be sent to a different realm and show those demons the true might of the Alliance. This is going to be fun. Felix commentated with a faint smile as he watched the march while chewing popcorn. Through the swirling vortices, the SG Alliance super space fleet emerges, a mighty leviathan of glittering vessels, stretching far beyond sight. At the forefront was the mothership, its vast form dwarfing nearby stars. Commander Nethrail activated the fleet-wide COMM system. All wings, engage FTL drive and proceed to your assigned demon realms. Let's bring peace back to our universe. On his command, the already devised fleet charged in perfect formations toward the nearest demonic planets, wanting to conquer the demon realms in a slow but steady manner. Since the princes couldn't leave their core territories unprotected, knowing that the SG Alliance was capable of creating wormholes connecting the two sides, they left most of those bordering planets without reinforcement. This caused them to fall down in the blink of an eye as the demons residing in them had absolutely no chance against their forceful power. This overwhelming wide invasion hadn't gone unnoticed by the princes. It has begun. Prince Satan said with narrowed eyes. All we have to do now is wait. Prince Belphegor said. Did Lucifer make his move? Probably. Everyone stared at the empty throne of Lucifer, knowing that the entire war's fate relied on him heavily. The tranquility of the cosmic wilderness was shattered by a terrifying spectacle. The space-time fabric trembled, shivered, and then began to distort. Enormous monstrous demonic worms, beings of colossal size and nightmarish design, surged from the dark void. Their gaping maws exuded an eldritch energy that bent the cosmos to their will. Behind them, space twisted and contorted, forming gaping wormholes. The portals resonated with an ominous hum, a dissonant chorus echoing across the stars, announcing the forthcoming horror. From within the tumultuous maw of each wormhole, a terrifying force started to pour forth. Armies of demons, a horrifying swarm of chaos and destruction, marched out onto the stage of the cosmos. And there, hovering above them all, a figure of supreme terror, the demon king Lucifer. His menacing silhouette was backlit by the dread glow of the wormholes, his eyes, reflecting a galaxy of suffering, were focused with an indifferent intent. Corrupt everything and anything. Lucifer ordered under the diabolical cheers of his demonic army that seemed to be stretching for eternity, their destination? The Scullions' first ever base on the other side, all the planets in the Revia N1 system. General Martha. We are being invaded from all sides by a flood of demons. Lucifer's sudden assault hadn't gone unnoticed as all radars, motion detectors, and even cameras had picked them up the moment they appeared in the Revia N1 system. *T, were they waiting until we sent away most of our armies? General Martha, the one responsible for the protection of the solar system, showed a hardened expression at the horrific sight of the demon army. There were at least 1 million space monsters mixed with lesser demons riding on their backs, and even multiple leviathans were seen following them from the back. Before General Martha could order anything, she knew that such a matter had to be reported to the leaders. With such a large army attacking our base, their demon realms must have been left unprotected. Did they give up on them? Emperor Lockle remarked. What's there to give? Queen Alfreda frowned. They knew that it would be impossible for them to defend most of their territories against our army's speed and power. So, instead of just waiting for us to reach their capital like the last time, they have decided to bring the fight to our doorstep. Queen Allura reasoned. This will make them ensure that we either send back most of the reinforcement to defend the Revia N1 system or take advantage of the opportunity to continue our conquest, but end up giving up it. Haichiatane Lakaka praised with a faint scoff. Pretty smart of them, I give them that. If we made most of our troops return, we will be falling into their trap and forcefully fight against their strongest army. Emperor Lockle gritted his teeth. We will be suffering much more casualties in this manner. From a rational and strategic standpoint, the best decision to make was to give up on Revia N1 and accelerate the conquest of the 7 demon realm now that their territories were left unguarded. It would be one solar system traded for 7 demon realms. It was a no-brainer decision. However, this was the SG Alliance, the strongest force in the entire universe. There was absolutely no way they would take the easy way and give the demons the satisfaction of conquering their first base and killing most of their people. The entire Revia N1 system was now heavily populated and could be considered an integral part of the Alliance due to it being the center of the connecting bridge between the two sides. Although the SG Alliance could create another bridge, they still couldn't give up on the Revia N1 system due to Luminaris being an Alliance member, and they had to protect them and their planet. Close the bridge to avoid any demon sneaking into our universe and call back the conquest. Felix ordered calmly after waiting for everyone's input. But, the plan. Plans can change, people's lives can't return. Felix clarified with a flat tone, plus if we took down this demon army, the 7 demon realms will be ours without needing too much effort. In Felix's eyes, the 7 demon realms would go nowhere and they could always conquer it when they take down this massive demon army. He is right, this army must be the last Hail Mary of the demons, taking it down translate to winning the war. Queen Alfreda frowned, although, the demon princes will still be a massive headache to us with their immortality. We don't know if the princes have come along with the army or not. Queen Allura added. None of them wanted to repeat what happened the last time the 6 princes made a move personally on them. We have the best of the best in our army this time. High Chieftain Lakaka sneered, I dare them to attack us personally. High Chieftain Lakaka wasn't saying this to sound cocky, as the SG Alliance had really sent their strongest fighters to hold down the demon princes. High Chieftain Lakaka, the Ruiner, the Dragon Clan heads, most of the top 10 Hive Night Guards, the High Elves royal family's guardians, and many more inner circle leaders, such as Ruler Hogon. In their minds, with this kind of setup, it would be near impossible for them to get defeated by the demon princes. Something smells fishy here. Why didn't they wait until our army got too involved in the conquest before making their move? It's like they wanted us to pull back our army and fight it. Felix thought to himself. Unbeknownst to Felix, this was exactly what Lucifer desired. A couple of hours later, across the expanse of the Revia N1 system, the celestial ballet of war was unfolding. The SG Alliance fleets, guardians of the interstellar democracy, were locked in battle with the most vicious and merciless race in the universe, the demons. Since the demon army entered the Revia N1 system from different directions, it resulted in hundreds of epic separated battles. Even though the demon army consisted of more than 1 million space monsters and lesser demons riding them, the SG Alliance troops were holding strong, as solar flares provided the backdrop to their savage ballet while waves of charged particles painted the battlefield with hues of violent beauty. Asteroids became collateral damage, shattered by the unfathomable energy unleashed. Comets crossed the battlefield like silent observers, their icy trails seeming to weep for the inevitable losses of this cosmic conflict. 3 leviathans are approaching Gorina. Do I have permission to use the planet destroyer weapon or the celestial sun burner weapon to slay them? Commander Nethrail asked as he addressed the leaders. There is no point in hiding our strongest weapons at this stage. Queen Alfreda said as she looked at her peers, I suggest we use them to eliminate those behemoths once and for all. Seconded. Agreed. No one rejected the proposal and Commander Nethrail quickly released the order for his subordinates to aim the planet destroyer weapons at those 3 leviathans. Similar to the one used by Mananangel, the enormous rectangle-shaped smooth silver weapons pointed their enormous circular deep dent at the leviathans. The first planet destroyer, Perseus, hummed to life. A blinding white light gathered at its apex, the air around it distorting with the sheer magnitude of gathering energy. The light solidified into a coherent beam, then, with a thunderous, reality-rending roar, the Omega White beam erupted towards the nearest leviathan. The beam met the monstrous entity with cataclysmic force. The space around the impact point warped, twisting with the violent interplay of energies. The leviathan roared in pain, a soundless vibration resonating through the fabric of space, as a part of its immense form disintegrated into stardust. It was utterly erased from existence. Dear God! Queen Danica and her people have left with mouths wide open and pale complexities as they had witnessed this scene from the surface of their planet in vivid detail. Before they could wake up from their daze, the second weapon, Theseus, discharged its beam. It sliced through the cosmic void, a spear of radiant destruction, striking the second leviathan. The creature recoiled, its shriek vibrating the hulls of the nearby ships. It flailed in tortured agony, its miasma burning off under the relentless onslaught of the Omega White beam until it was no more than a fading echo of the terror it once embodied. Almost simultaneously, the third planet destroyer, Orion, fired, not giving the demons or the leviathan even a moment to react. The beam pierced the void, an arrow of blinding luminosity, and impaled the final leviathan while it was just about to use gravitational waves as a barrier. It thrashed, tendrils writhing, scales flickering erratically in the light of its impending doom. Then, with a final, resonating throb of space-time, the last leviathan evaporated into the cosmic ether. In the aftermath, the silent void bore witness to the finality of the Omega White beams. The leviathans, once the harbingers of annihilation, were now nothing more than fading embers against the backdrop of infinity. The nearby demons were left with hearts beating out of their chests, incapable of believing what their eyes had just fed them. Whoa-ah-ah. Clap clap clap. On the other side, the Scullions' troops' morals were off the roof as even those horrific leviathans were proved to be nothing before their weapons, don't even mention the rest of the demons. As Felix was watching this spectacle scene with a look of discomfort as it reminded him of what apocalyptic scene Earth went through, his weakened senses didn't pick up the change of air behind him. A cool piece of tech you have there. However, when he heard this cool-toned statement near his ears, he sprung up from his chair reflexively before turning around with a cold expression. You. New. N0VEL chapters are published on N0V/E/LB/IN/CO/M. When he turned around, his cold expression was replaced by a stunned look. We finally meet, my destined other half. Lucifer uttered with a flat tone, but the creepy glimmer of excitement in his eyes couldn't be hidden. A foreigner has been detected. Do I have permission to take him down? Queen AI asked monotonously as she pointed multiple plasma defensive weapons at Lucifer. No need. Felix ordered for the weapons to be pulled back, then, he sized up Lucifer from the bottom of his head with an intrigued expression. The resemblance is even more uncanny face to face. Felix commentated as he began walking around Lucifer and even bringing his face close to him, appearing like he had not an ounce of fear for his safety. It was understandable as he was a mere sand clone and if Lucifer wanted, he could have killed him with a mere sneeze. Ask him of his reason for coming here. Asna said with an interested tone. He also mentioned something about his destined other half. Just as Felix wanted to voice his question, Lucifer walked past him and sat on the captain's chair in the cockpit. He looked at the front window that was reflecting the nearest chaotic battlefield between demons and the Alliance's fleets. I have to say that I am fairly disappointed that you have come here with a mere clone. Lucifer sighed. I have dreamed of this day for a very, very long time, and as much as I am not a romantic type, I would have loved for our first meeting to be perfect. Felix's tenants were left glancing at the sky speechlessly. Destined other half, waiting for a long time, romantic meeting. Felix's eyelids twitched. Brother, I don't swing that way. Swing where? Lucifer knitted his eyebrows in confusion. Just forget it. Felix sat next to him and asked with a solemn tone, now, are you planning to tell me what are you doing here? In Felix's eyes, all of the things that Lucifer had mentioned were nothing but useless blabber and he had no intentions of believing them. Visit novelbin.cm for updates. I came to persuade you to meet me with your main consciousness. You see, the fate of the universe kinda depends on it. Lucifer confessed casually. Enough of being cryptic and come clean. Felix got irritated as he felt that Lucifer was messing with him. The fate of the universe depended on their meeting? It sounded like a joke to anyone. He is being honest. Lady Sphinx shared with a curious tone. She was already intrigued with Lucifer and Felix looking alike, and now that the situation had developed this way and Lucifer was using such big words, she could smell secrets revolving around their coincidental resemblance. Honest, but how can that be? Felix frowned. Although he was still skeptical, Felix decided to play along this time. Mind clarifying. Unfortunately, that's a conversation that can be had only if we met face to face. Lucifer shook his head. He invaded my spaceship and started spewing nonsense, and now that I asked him to clarify, he refuses. Felix's upper lip twitched. Is he hit in the head? I know what you are thinking and I promise you that the truth will blow your mind. Lucifer smiled. So, what do you say? Say what? Will you meet me? No. Why not? I am busy. How can you be busy when I just told you that the universe's fate depends on us? I am not interested in your fantasy, universe's fate. Tisk, bold words from a mere demon. Your confidence and pride sure know no bounds, I give you that. Felix sneered. Although his master assured him that Lucifer wasn't lying, that didn't mean Lucifer couldn't be convinced in his own fantasy and believe it as the truth. Something as the universe's fate was way above a demon's payday. I guess you don't believe me, hey. Lucifer shrugged his shoulders. Since you have no intentions of meeting me peacefully, you give me no other option. What do you mean? You will understand soon, look there. Lucifer pointed his finger at the nearest chaotic space battlefield and suddenly uttered, "Wicked emanation." The space battlefield lay engulfed in chaos as the forces clashed, ships blazing, and soldiers fighting fiercely. Above the carnage, dark red storm clouds swirled ominously, crackling with malevolent energy. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed through the void, sending chills down the spines of both the living and the machines of war. From the depths of the cosmic abyss, a massive crimson-red mist materialized, billowing forth with an ethereal force. Its tendrils snaked through the vacuum, eclipsing the stars with its malevolence. As it descended upon the battlefield, a foreboding sense of doom washed over all who witnessed its arrival. Is that impossible? Felix's eyes widened in shock at the sight of the mist advancing like a relentless sandstorm, its scarlet hue flickering with an otherworldly glow. As it swept across the battlefield, the once pristine metallic structures corroded and crumbled, consumed by its wicked influence. What's worse? Soldiers in the path of the mist writhed in agony as their flesh blackened, and their eyes glowed with an unholy red. The demons of the mist materialized grotesque and twisted creatures from the darkest realms of existence. Their eyes burned with a malevolent fire, and their twisted forms exuded an aura of pure evil. With unearthly screeches, they descended upon both sides of the conflict, turning friend and foe alike into mindless instruments of destruction. The once organized battle formations dissolved into chaos as soldiers succumbed to the demonic influence. Their weapons turned against their former comrades, tearing through ranks with terrifying efficiency. The crimson mist seemed to empower the demons, their strength growing with each life claimed by their unholy assault. Amidst the chaos, the remaining soldiers fought desperately to resist the encroaching malevolence. But the mist was unyielding, seeping into every crevice, corrupting even the strongest wills. Fear and despair spread like wildfire, threatening to consume the battlefield entirely. Those few who managed to escape the immediate grasp of the mist clung to their diminishing hope, rallying together against the demonic onslaught. Even though Felix wasn't there, his soul could hear the sound of desperate cries and defiant roars echoing through the now blood-red haze. In less than a minute, the once chaotic battlefield with thousands of spaceships was no more. Ring ring ring. Felix's bracelet rang like crazy, disrupting the silence in the cockpit. Felix didn't need to pick up the call to know what it would be about. With murderous cold eyes and fists tightened until his fingers were about to penetrate his palms, Felix calmly silenced his bracelet and turned to look at Lucifer. What did you just do? He asked with a suppressed tone. Give you some motivation to take my words seriously. Lucifer replied indifferently, you see, the only reason I haven't already ended this war and demonized your precious people is because of you. I wanted us to handle this as privately as possible, but you are twisting my arms with your stubbornness. Is that your response? Felix said with bloodshot eyes. While the situation in the cockpit was peaceful and calm, Felix knew that more than 10,000 soldiers hadn't just met their fate, but even worse, they were demonized for eternity, taking away even the dignity of having at least an honorable soldier's death. To make matters worse, he saw them getting picked up by other lesser demons on their space monsters and taking them to another battlefield to fight their own people. This truly had pissed off Felix more than anything, especially when the culprit was sitting next to him and continuing to spew such confusing crap. Nemo, lock him inside the void realm but don't kill him. So, he ordered Nemo through his other wisp of consciousness inside Nemo's mind, having absolutely no intentions of continuing the discussion with this madman. Obedient as ever, Nemo launched solid void chains from multiple small void rifts appearing around Lucifer. The chains went through the captain's chair and connected themselves with Lucifer's limbs, causing him to get captured. Then, he was dragged inside a hard void prison cell that was inside the void realm through a rift before closing it down. All of this happened in less than a split second, making it impossible for even Felix to see through the whole capturing process. Nemo popped off on Felix's lap with a wide cute grin, clearly asking for praise over his work. Felix patted him on the head while having a cold expression. This might not be enough to kill him, but it will keep him away from the war for AW. What kind of creature is that? Why does it have a slightly familiar feeling with Mother? Alas, Lucifer interrupted him yet again from the back with an intrigued expression. When Felix turned around and saw that he hadn't lost anything, he didn't know what to think anymore. How? 1319 The War for the Universe. 3. Even Nemo was confused as he was certain that he had imprisoned Lucifer in his void cell, but after looking at it again, he found out that it was empty. Save us the trouble and just sit down. Lucifer said, I can't be killed or trapped regardless of what you do. How did he do that? I thought demon princes need some of their DNA and plenty of evil energy to revive themselves. Asna inquired. Felix planned to capture Lucifer in the void realm instead of killing him, knowing that he would be revived somewhere else if he did. But, he didn't expect that he would escape from another dimension without raising a single alarm. He must have a bit of evil energy and DNA in the cockpit, enabling him to get revived. Felix reasoned with a solemn expression as he stared at the nonchalant Lucifer, this is the only explanation available. Nemo asked for permission to end Lucifer's life this time with his own measures and Felix allowed him to go all out. Nemo showed an evil diabolical grin as his eyes turned crimson while staring at Lucifer. Visit novelbin.cm for updates. Void particles had made their insidious ingress into his form, a horrifying invasion, invisible to the eye yet felt all too keenly. They began consuming him, as a wave of discomfort cascaded through his powerful physique. The initial unease turned to pain, a gnawing sensation that searched into every corner of his being, leaving no cell untouched. He was being eaten from the inside out as Nemo had used his void laws to create void particles straight away within Lucifer's cells. If it was the void element manipulation, this would be impossible as there were rules and laws that had to be respected. But when it came to laws themselves, it was more than possible as Nemo was literally able to break those laws of void and could create them whenever and wherever he desired. Void laws, how can it be, you? Before Lucifer could finish his sentence, his entire body was erased from existence, leaving absolutely not a single particle of his DNA behind. Good job. Felix praised Nemo. It will be impossible for that bastard to appear near this area again unless he left his DNA around. Felix had no plans to stay in the same place and check out if he was right or not. Alas, just as he was about to control his spaceship to take off into the distance, a sudden pressuring aura befell Felix, causing him to remain frozen in his place. Lucifer manifested in front of Felix from a tiny crimson particle, leaving him unable to take his eyes off the process. Enough is enough. Lucifer uttered with an icy tone the moment his form was fully created. This time even Felix's masters were taken back as his revival made absolutely no sense in their eyes. It's too fast, way too fast to be realistic, not even Mananangal could be revived this quickly. Thor commentated with a serious tone. He wasn't making sense from the get-go. J.A. Ramongander remarked. The tenants approved of his take immediately. Lucifer's ability to create and cover an entire space battlefield with evil energy from such a long distance was already something that should be in the realm of primogenitors. Now, he showed them that he could get revived without requiring DNA or a respectable amount of evil energy and do it in less than a split second. It was normal to catch their attention. I am done wasting time with you. Lucifer eyed Felix coldly and asked one last time, are you going to meet me or not? After everything that Lucifer had shown, even if Felix wasn't in the Elementals galaxy and wanted to meet him, he would think deeply about it. However, after Lucifer had demonized an entire battlefield in less than a minute, Felix understood that if he didn't give him an answer that would please him, he would take it on the Scullions' army. All right, I will meet you. Felix paused for a moment before adding with a serious tone, but, I decide the time and location. Speak. 5 decades from now and the location is your capital planet. But, you must not participate in the war. Felix disclosed his condition even though he still had no clue what the hell Lucifer wanted with him. But at that moment in time, Felix wouldn't care too much as he would be strong enough to fight even primogenitors. 5 decades translated to 5,000 years, which was enough time for him to master plenty of new stuff while also ascending to a deity. 5 decades. Lucifer sneered, you have a month, nothing more, nothing less. A month. Felix's expression turned ugly. He barely finished a year in the Elementals galaxy and now he was asked to leave it right away? Felix just couldn't accept the deal as it would literally ruin his entire future and there would be no more chances of entering the galaxy ever again. You must not do it. Thor frowned, even if you accepted the deal and met with him after a month, it would be too dangerous. I have a feeling that this demon has somehow transcended to a deity level. A deity level. That can't be right. Felix was stunned. Although Lucifer had demonstrated an uncanny level of strength that made his brothers look like lesser demons, Felix still didn't put a deity label on him. After all, being a deity was more than just manipulation range and strength. Use Nemo's spiritual pressure to confirm it. Elder Kraken suggested. Felix did as he was told, knowing that Nemo's current spiritual pressure was on par with primogenitors due to being separate from his stronger half. If they were together, he would have had a unigen spiritual pressure that was capable of pressuring even primogenitors. After Nemo released his spiritual pressure on Lucifer and it didn't work on him in the slightest, it made Felix's heart skip a beat and his complexion turn paler. Even the tenants were startled after receiving confirmation of their doubts. I guess you are still not taking me seriously. Lucifer stood up and said with a cold tone, don't bother coming to me, I will be finding you myself and taking your weird pet with me. The moment he finished speaking, Lucifer disappeared from the cockpit. This can't be good. Asna commented. An unkillable furious deity-level demon in a war between mortals. No sh*t. Felix didn't let his emotions get the best of him as he knew that Lucifer would most definitely do whatever it took to meet with him. The easiest method was clearly forcing Felix out by punishing his people. Commander Nethrael. Evacuate all the people from Revia N1 and order a mass retreat. Felix shouted with an agitated tone. Grand Supreme, I can't do. Commander Nethrael was stunned. I have no time to explain, just do it. As you command. Although Commander Nethrael needed such an important order to be confirmed through the inner circle leaders beforehand, he ignored the protocol and went for it. In his eyes, if there was something capable of freaking out even the Grand Supreme, then he should be horrified. Just as he was about to announce the order, his subordinate reported with a shocked tone, Commander. A demon has invaded the mothership, he oddly looks like our Grand Supreme. Is it him? When Commander Nethrael looked at the monitor and saw Lucifer in his blood and flesh floating in the direction of the mothership's core area, he couldn't help but feel chills course in his spine. The first thing he did was report the matter to Felix as he had a bad feeling that his previous orders must be related to him. This monster, the mothership is at least 1,000,000 kilometers away from here, 1,000,000 kilometers. With a wide-eyed stare, Felix's face was a canvas painted with pure, unadulterated fear, his eyes were pools of terror, the usual vibrant hues subdued to a dull grey. It had been a long while since Felix felt such a level of fear as even the darkened seemed killable and handleable. 1320 The War for the Universe. 4. Send Chieftain Lokaka to buy you time and evacuate the mothership right now. Felix roared in Commander Nethrael's ears, making his heart skip a beat. He never saw the Grand Supreme acting this agitated and it was more than enough to make him understand that Lucifer wasn't to be messed with. Unfortunately, before he could act on the order, High Chieftain Lokaka, Ruler Hogan, and the rest of the appointed guardians had already mobilized themselves to stop Lucifer without waiting for his order. I am grateful that you look like our Grand Supreme, this will make it even more satisfying to trash you. High Chieftain Lokaka stated with a faint smirk as he eyed Lucifer from across a massive corridor. The passageway stretched out before their eyes, an intricate web of metal and mystery that seemed to breathe with its own enigmatic energy. I couldn't agree more. Clan Head Igos sneered. He was standing behind him in his humanoid form while accompanied by Clan Head Azastirth and a few more powerful royal dragons from the other clans. Ruler Hogan was also there, but he was hiding in the Shadow Realm with his subordinates. The remaining guardians had yet to arrive as they were positioned across the entire mothership and its size made it hard even for them to cross in no time. You must be the space worm leader. Lucifer said calmly. How did he know? Did they get information about me from the captured troops? High Chieftain Lokaka frowned. I was looking for you, I am really thankful that you saved me the trouble by showing up like this. Lucifer gave him a cold smile as he extended his palm in the direction of High Chieftain Lokaka. Then, there was no then. High Chieftain Lakaka found himself frozen in place, unable to think or use elemental abilities. Spiritual pressure. How can that be? Lucifer is at a primogenitor level. Don't get face to face with him. Queen Ai delivered a somewhat late message in High Chieftain Lakaka's ears from Felix. When High Chieftain Lakaka heard the term primogenitor being used, he felt his heart fall into the pits of his stomach as he realized that his carefree cocky attitude had just sealed his fate. Lucifer teleported in front of High Chieftain Lakaka, coming face to face with him. His smile widened a bit as he uttered with a pleased tone, "From now on, you will be my personal driver." Before High Chieftain Lakaka could react to his peculiar statement, he found himself engulfed completely with a thick crimson mist. No 00000000000. His terrified despairing scream was turned into an agonizing scream as both his mind and body were getting demonized at an uncanny speed in front of his own people. Clan head Igos, Azistirth, ruler Hogon, and everyone watching through the security cameras were left unable to react. The only difference was that Clan head Igos and the rest of the guardians around Lucifer were also under his spiritual pressure, which crippled them both mentally and physically, while the others simply couldn't believe that the second strongest fighter in their alliance was taken out so easily. It wasn't even a fight, it looked like an adult taking candy from a child, and the surrounding children could do nothing but cower in fear. I can't move my body. Help me. Primogenitor spiritual pressure, we are doomed. Ruler Hogon. Save us quickly. Clan head Azistirth beseeched telepathically, knowing that Ruler Hogon and his subordinates weren't put under Lucifer's spiritual pressure due to being in another dimension. If High Chieftain Lakaka didn't act too arrogantly and played it safe by watching from a different dimension, the situation would have been different. But in his favor, no one in the entire universe would expect a demon to have a deity's spiritual pressure, which was the only thing capable of making mortal strength seem futile. Shadow Snatch. Understanding the severity of the situation, Ruler Hogon swiftly dragged Clan head Igos, Azistirth, and the rest of the dragons into the Shadow Realm through their shadows. Where do you think you are going? Lucifer gave a mere indifferent glance at the dragons. Whoosh. Abruptly, the shadows dragging them turned crimson red and released their clutches on them, causing the clan heads and the other dragons to show utter despair on their faces. You are coming along too. Lucifer stated calmly as he engulfed them all in the same crimson mist, not giving them even a chance to think of another solution. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Ruler Hogan's expression turned ugly at the sight of everyone getting demonized right in front of him, and he could do nothing to stop it. In less than a few moments, the crimson mist disappeared and what was left behind caused all the viewers to feel a shiver caressing their souls. High Chieftain Lakaka, Clan head Igos, and Clan head Azistirth stood side by side. The air around them crackled with an unnerving tension, as the ethereal energy of the dark realm seeped into their presence. A sinister aura engulfed the trio, distorting their once noble features into twisted visages. Lakaka, the High Chieftain, renowned for his spatial manipulation and leadership, was now an embodiment of corrupted authority. A crown of jagged obsidian horns sprouted from his brow, symbolizing his descent into darkness. Beside him, Clan head Igos had succumbed to the demonic influence as well. His broad shoulders, once a symbol of strength and pride, now hunched forward as if burdened by the weight of his wicked transformation. Clan head Azistirth, his once green slits were now pools of darkness, mesmerizing and yet harrowing. From his claws, ebony wisps of smoke snaked and coiled, ready to ensnare those who dared cross his path. The remaining royal dragons suffered from a similar harrowing transformation. Thud. 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 Under the stunned eyes of Felix and the rest of the leaders, High Chieftain Lakaka had fallen into the ground until his wormish face was touching it. The proud clan heads and royal dragons also knelt down with their heads bowed. Your Majesty, we are forever indebted for opening our eyes to the truth. They shouted simultaneously with a fluent demonic language like they were taught from birth. You're most welcome. Now, clean this vessel from its filth. Lucifer said calmly as he walked past them like this situation was an everyday occurrence to him. As you command. High Chieftain Lakaka and the others stood back up, and the first thing they did was lift their heads to stare at the security cameras. Then, High Chieftain Lakaka smiled diabolically and uttered, "Don't worry, we will be helping you learn your truth soon." The moment he finished, High Chieftain disappeared through a crimson spatial portal that was connected to none other than the mothership's cockpit. When he exited the portal and saw Commander Nethrail and the rest of the crewmates, he couldn't help but show them an honest smile. In favor of your hard work for the Alliance, I will try to make your demonization as painless as possible. I would rather die. Commander Nethrail ordered out loud with a tone of nothing but resolve, Queen Ai. Terminate me. There was no question of confirmation from Queen Ai as she had eliminated his consciousness the moment the order left his mouth. With soulless eyes, Commander Nethrail fell forward while being stared at by his stunned subordinates. It was clear that this wasn't how he envisioned his life to end as a commander, dying before he could protect his own people, but he was really left with no other choice, as either he died or he got demonized and fought against his own people. N0VEL chapters are published on N0V/E/LB/IN/CO/M. For Commander Nethrail, that was a fate a million times worse than death. I would rather die too. Queen Ai. 4SG Alliance. 4SG Alliance. It seemed like his actions had inspired his subordinates to fight through their survival urge and voice the termination command that was known to every single soldier in this universe. This termination order was placed in such situations when soldiers were left with the choice of merciful death being more appealing than anything else. Unfortunately, even though most soldiers knew that death would be better than their future in some situations, not many of them dared to use it. After all, it wasn't easy to fight off the urge for survival even as soldiers, which was the reason why many troops had gotten demonized in the war. Right this moment, at least 20% of the crewmates hadn't terminated their lives and remained frozen in their places with a crippling fear holding tightly to their hearts, making it impossible for them to utter those words. You should be enough, I guess. High Chieftain said carelessly as he engulfed the entire cockpit in evil energy. 2 hours later, Felix could be seen sitting on his chair at the inner circle assembly within the UVR with the majority of the leaders. Besides the humans being always empty, 4 more chairs were added to the list. The inner circle leaders were merely staring at each other with hardened expressions like all of them had just attended their loved ones' funerals. What have we just done? Queen Allura broke the silence with a rhetorical question that came from the bottom of her heart. We invited a monster into our home, that's what we did. Half an hour ago, all of them received notifications that a peculiar crimson wormhole had been spotted in the Scullions' territory. No one was spotted near the wormhole, but every one of them knew that Lucifer must have gone through it and he was now roaming freely in their territory. I guess he really meant it when he said he will be looking for you. Asuna said with a stern tone. 1321 The War for the Universe. V. In the past 2 hours, the SG Alliance troops managed to evacuate all the citizens in the Revia N1 system. It wasn't easy in the slightest when the mothership had fallen under Lucifer's control and his subordinates. Fortunately, Lucifer didn't seem to care so much about killing everyone as he didn't bother to go after the Scullions' forces after taking over the mothership. Though, the remaining demons sure gave the SG Alliance a run for their money, forcing them to leave behind a staggering number of casualties. When the SG Alliance had made sure that everyone had been evacuated, the leaders had ordered a mass retreat into the depth of the 7th realm, Tartarus. All of them were ordered to not open wormholes and return to the Scullions' territory in fear of Lucifer and his demons invading them. Unbeknownst to them, Lucifer didn't even need them as the moment he demonized High Chieftain Lakaka, he was capable of opening his own bridges with the chieftain's coordinates. At least, that was what everyone predicted after finding out about the peculiar red wormhole. This Lucifer is an enemy way above our league. We can handle the demons just fine, but we can't do anything against someone with the strength of a primogenitor and true immortality. Queen Alfreda said with a serious tone, we have to bring this matter to the primogenitors and seek their help to hunt him down. I doubt they will help us, after all, we are the ones who brought this to ourselves with our invasion. Emperor Lockle shook his head. Then what else can we do? Queen Alfreda frowned. High Chieftain and 2 clan heads have defected to the other side and some would still retain all of their abilities and memories. If we allow this menace to roam freely in our territory, God knows what kind of destruction he will bring. Everyone knew that when demons get demonized, they lose most of their memories and powers, especially elemental manipulation, as demons were known to manipulate only evil energy. But, when Lucifer demonized Lakaka and the dragons, they still retained their memories and most shockingly, their elemental manipulations. The only things that changed were their new devotion to Lucifer and the appearance of their elements as they seemed corrupted. Even their devotion looked out of place as demons supposedly needed to sign soul contracts and they would still not be wholeheartedly loyal to a superior demon. All of this made the SG Alliance leadership quite worried for their continuity as this enemy was just too overpowered for them. King Maxwell, you have been awfully quiet, do you have any suggestions? Fisherman Queen Everly asked. Everyone turned to focus on Felix, who had lines on his forehead etched deeper, as if carved by the weight of the universe itself. It wasn't far-fetched from reality as Felix understood that Lucifer wouldn't harm anyone if he just agreed to have that meeting with him. If Lucifer is really roaming in our universe, he is bound to leave a track sooner or later near that wormhole. I suggest we evacuate all nearby planets before he steps foot in them. Felix expressed. This is a mere temporary solution to keep our people safe, but we can't keep evacuating planets and making the citizens homeless to avoid him. The Pandian's High Honor Jarrah said. We need to find a way to erase him from existence and remove any chance of him reviving again. Is there a method? Queen Alfreda asked as she looked at Empress Emily. Based on the information in our possession, there is 0% chance of victory against Lucifer even if we used every weapon in our arsenal. Empress Emily stated expressionlessly. This answer didn't please the leaders in the slightest as it made them return to their original plan, which was beseeching help from the primogenitors. King Maxwell, you are pretty close with your masters, is it possible to request a favor from one of them for us all? Minister Aquarius requested with a deep sigh. Our ancestors ignore us most of the time and I am certain that we will be ignored again if we made such a request. No one bothered to even request Felix to fight against Lucifer as they had no intentions to send their Grand Supreme to his early damnation. Even though Felix showcased his immense strength, none of them had an ounce of confidence that he would be able to get rid of Lucifer. The most powerful mortal was still a mortal in front of a deity. My apologies, but my masters aren't available at the moment and won't consider helping us. Felix replied. Lady Sphinx and Fenrir were in Elemental's galaxy while Lord Chaos was a mere spectator. Sigh, that's disappointing. I guess we are on our own until the situation gets too grave. Although the primogenitors might seem selfish and uncaring about the Scullions' survival, the leaders were sure that their ancestors would make a move to stop Lucifer if it seemed like he was on a path to universal conquest. After all, they could not give up on the only stable source of entertainment, which was the Supremacy Games platforms. So, the SG Alliance leaders could only drop this subject for now and focus on how to deal with their war and minimize Lucifer's domination. In no time, this had turned from a conquest of the other side into a war for the entire universe and the odds didn't look so good for them at all. Explore new ovals on nfelby.com. A couple of days later. Everyone in the network was awakened to the shocking news of an entire solar system with more than 10 civilized planets getting turned into a cesspool of demons. No matter how much the SG Alliance leaders wanted to keep the news under a tight lid, it was simply impossible with everyone's free access to the network. Right now, there are thousands of videos, if not more, of Lucifer descending into those planets and completely transforming them into a corrupted environment where only demons could live in it. One could only imagine the shock of the citizens when they noticed that Lucifer was a twin of their Grand Supreme. As expected, it's simply impossible to keep everyone away from him. Felix rubbed his heavy eyelids as he closed the holographic forums that were filled with conspiracies related to him and Lucifer. I don't know if he is doing this to bait you out or he simply wants to spread as much chaos as possible, but if no one stops him, you can be certain that the entire universe will belong to the demon race. Asuna commentated with a deep frown. As much as she didn't care about the lives of the Scullions' citizens, she still preferred the current peaceful era than having demons' domination. Whether he is doing it for me or not, I have to respond. Felix said with a stern tone, I can't let him demonize and ruin any more lives under my rulership. I promised the people good lives and a successful conquest, I refuse to break my word. Don't tell me you are planning to ascend to a deity right away. Asuna was startled. Is there any other option? Felix shook his head. Felix would have preferred remaining in the Elemental's galaxy until he got everything he desired from it, but he could never prioritize his training when his people were getting slaughtered and demonized right and left. As the Grand Supreme, He had a responsibility to keep the SG Alliance safe and right now, he was failing it epically. This was what would be in the minds of the citizens as they didn't care if Lucifer was a deity, immortal, or whatnot. Unfortunately, even if you chose a new bloodline and decided to become a deity as fast as possible, you will not be able to eliminate Lucifer. Lady Sphinx had to break his dreams. You might kill him once, twice, or even 100 times, but he will always return and you can do nothing about it. The only way to truly kill him is by using Lord Shiva's ultimate ability, Totality Collapse. You can't have it without destruction immunity, which means I must have destruction manipulation at all costs if I want a fair shot at killing Lucifer. Felix said as he covered his face with his hands. Felix hadn't felt this hopeless in a long time and now even when he desired to let go of the best training opportunity to save his people, he couldn't go for it because of one person. Lord Shiva. Knowing Lord Shiva, he wouldn't hand his destruction manipulation to Felix even at the threat of everyone in the universe going extinct. After all, he was a madman enough to actually seek universal destruction and failed at it. Something like this wouldn't tickle his empathy in the slightest. But still, Felix knew that he had to give it a try. So, without an ounce of hesitation, Felix descended into his consciousness space and went straight to Lord Shiva. It was finally time that he addressed the elephant in the room. 1322 A win-win-win situation. A few moments later, Felix could be seen standing in front of Lord Shiva who was still sunbathing with sunglasses on and a weird-looking smoothie in his hand. No. B. Visit. Novel bin. CM for updates. The answer is no. Felix turned to his masters for some help, but all they did was shrug their shoulders and ignore him. They knew that Lord Shiva was impossible to convince to do anything, don't even mention bestowing his elemental manipulation. Move away, you are blocking the Sunday. Lord Shiva shooed him away. No, I am not giving up. Felix said with a firm tone, I am not leaving until you at least give me either an explanation or a condition to get the manipulation. I know that you couldn't care less about being revived and clearly, we have the same end goal. If Lord Shiva wanted to be revived, it was more than possible as Lady Sphinx could create a new body for him by using some of his descendants' DNA, though, his strength wouldn't be on a primogenitor's level anymore since he had a mere wisp of consciousness and a non-deity body. But still, if he desired to be revived, this wouldn't have stopped him. Lord Shiva lowered his sunglasses and stared at Felix directly in his eyes with an indifferent expression. Same goal? If you truly aim for the same goal, you wouldn't have bothered yourself with those mortals and focused wholeheartedly on getting stronger. Lord Shiva scoffed, your judgment and focus can easily be affected by other people's lives, yet you have the audacity to aim for those beings. How foolish. In other words, if I was more focused on defeating those beings and ignored everything else, you would bestow your destruction manipulation. Felix repeated with a stern tone. If you are willing enough, why not? Lord Shiva replied calmly, I will even help you master your wisdom which will upgrade your comprehension to a godly level. After Lord Shiva found out that Felix could become much stronger than even primogenitors after hitting the origin realm, the idea of bestowing his manipulation was planted in his head. Even though he didn't like Felix personally as he found him emotional and just human, he still decided to go for it since he was their last bet, whether he pulled it off or not didn't matter. He was just waiting for Felix to show him that he was at least attentive and focused on such an overarching goal, but with this new development, he was making it harder for him to accept him. I see. Felix turned around and looked at his masters without saying or even thinking anything. They just kept looking at each other before Lady Sphinx let out a helpless exhale before waving her hand at him like a mother giving in to her child's cries for candy. Felix showed her a smile filled with gratitude before turning around to Lord Shiva. I will do it. Felix stressed with a determined tone, I will remain in the Elementals galaxy until I am satisfied with my training results and would never leave it even if the entire universe fell under the control of demons. Is that enough? What about your people's safety and lives? That's none of your business. Lord Shiva smiled faintly at his response and said, I don't care if you break your words with your people, but you better not think for a moment to break it with me. In another sense, Lord Shiva was warning him about taking his destruction manipulation and straight away replacing the bloodline before leaving the galaxy. I never had such intentions. Felix said calmly. We will see about it. Lord Shiva lowered his sunglasses again and said, call me when you want to start. Preferably now. Felix answered, I am ready. Felix was worried that Lord Shiva might change his mind later. Since he had already mastered the third stage of manipulation for each of his elements, there was no need to seal any of his manipulations to not conflict with the new one. So, he was ready to accept the bestowment at any moment. As you wish. Some time later. Felix's face was covered in sweat as he lay on his knees with glowing dark red inscriptions written over his entire skin. The process was as painful as always, but Felix had gone through it multiple times and he had adapted to it. Congratulations on your 5th elemental manipulation. Asna clapped with a charming smile. 5 perfect elemental manipulations, I never thought a small human body could encompass 5 inscriptions. Elder Kraken said with an intrigued tone, the question is, can he continue adding more? Well, his skin does seem like it has no more space for additional inscriptions. Carbuncle commented as he studied Felix's skin, will those inscriptions never conflict with each other as long as the third stage was mastered? It seems Li. The number is 7. His body can't contain more than 7 elemental manipulations. Lady Sphinx answered. 7? How are you so sure? Asna raised an eyebrow in surprise. Even Felix was taken aback and felt his pain somewhat going away due to the news. Ever since the second inscription was added, I have done limit testing on his perfect clone. Lady Sphinx narrated calmly, his body was deemed impossible to contain more than 7 manipulations as the 8 inscriptions end up being overlapping over them at once until the very first inscription at the bottom goes invisible. It can't be summoned anymore, which means his poison manipulation will be erased. So, it's possible to add more elemental manipulation, the only issue is that the first ones will get replaced. Felix said his piece through the pain. Indeed. Well, I always knew that there must be a limit somehow. Felix wasn't disappointed by the news at all. After all, he still could obtain 2 more elemental manipulations, and since they weren't related to bloodlines that much, he could easily obtain them by awakening more primogenitors' wisps as he did with the Kraken's wisp of consciousness. The only reason he never bothered to go for it was that his bloodline path had yet to reach its end and all the awakened primogenitors besides Lord Shiva were cooperative. How about limited manipulations though, do they count as one? Asna wondered. They do count since they also require inscriptions to be written. The only difference is that limited manipulations come from incomplete inscriptions written in the DNA of the owner while perfect manipulation comes from complete inscriptions. Lady Sphinx clarified, that's one of the reasons we called it perfect elemental manipulation. This means after you hit the origin realm and get the last bloodline's limited manipulation, you will be given the choice for one last perfect manipulation. Asna shared. That's not perfect, but I can live with that. Felix said with a content tone. If he was to throw a tantrum because of this, then he really didn't deserve to even have 2 manipulations. 7 elemental manipulations was a dream that not even primogenitors dreamed of having, don't even mention mortals. Thank you master for making this happen. Felix turned to face Lady Sphinx and promised with a serious tone, I won't let you down. Don't waste your time on such things, I am also curious about Lucifer's unique source of power and he will serve as an excellent new project. Lady Sphinx replied with a glitter of anticipation. What are they talking about? Did I miss a scene? Candace murmured in confusion as she looked around her. Big Sis is going to hunt down Lucifer and deal with him while Felix is focusing on his training as he promised Lord Shiva. Asna explained it to Candace. As Felix's lifelong partner and soulmate, she understood exactly what Felix wanted from his masters when he gave them that look before. He didn't say anything or even thought about it, but Asna and his masters understood that he was pleading with Lady Sphinx to help him protect the SG Alliance from Lucifer's terror while he was away. In this manner, he would ensure to keep his word with Lord Shiva and receive his manipulation and teachings during his training while simultaneously knowing that Lucifer would have someone making his life hell. Sphinx, there is no need for you to make a move personally. Fenrir interjected expressionlessly as he stared at Felix, if you asked me, I would have done it for you as I still owe you one for rescuing me from the ice world. Elder. Felix didn't know how to respond. Plus, he has given me the perfect opponents for Noah, and on our own turf, it will be a waste to leave them be. Fenrir smiled coldly. Fenrir always wanted Noah to fight with the demons as they were perfect for his cultivation system due to their immortality. But because they were located on the other side where the 3 Darkins reside, he didn't want to risk having his student land in their hands. But now that the demons were invading the Skallians' territory, it was a much better opportunity than just killing non-intelligent strong creatures in the Elementals galaxy. But, what about the time difference? What about it? Fenrir said calmly, Noah is already near his physical limitation while his ice manipulation talent is already second to none. While Felix spent merely 500 years for each element, Noah was putting close to 2,000 years on just his ice manipulation, so, his improvement was already noteworthy and it was time for him to unleash it and test it on his enemies. All in all, Noah could afford to lose the time difference without losing too many advantages, unlike Felix that had so much to master and no time for each one. I am still going for that demon. Lady Sphinx added calmly, the fact that he reached a deity level is already a universal secret that needs exploring. Fine, let's do it together then. Fenrir gave in. That's more like it. Felix was left speechless as he already felt that it was too much to send one primogenitor after Lucifer. But now, 2 were going after him? He suddenly felt somewhat sympathetic for Lucifer. 1323 A Song of Fire and Ice. A couple of months later in the outside universe. Fenrir, Noah, Olivia, Bodadai, and even Selphie decided to leave the Elementals galaxy after learning more about the demon's invasion. All of them wanted to offer their assistance in such a difficult time as it was getting harder and harder to contain the demonization in the SG Alliance. It was like a plague without a cure and most nations could only seek destructive methods to minimize the demonization of their citizens. Right now, it was believed that there were more than 20 billion lesser demons across the entire universe. As for the animalistic demons, they were incalculable. This wasn't done just by Lucifer alone as the remaining princes had sent their subordinates to the other side as well while they remained behind to defend their capitals. Unbeknownst to them, the SG Alliance couldn't care less anymore about their territories at such harrowing times. They had ordered most of their armies to return and help with containing the demonization before it goes out of control. Fortunately, Felix and his Void Nation were proven to be an excellent shield against the demons due to the Void Realm being accessible. This allowed them to use the billions of Void Creatures' army at their disposal. Since Void Creatures couldn't be demonized, they were the best counter to demons. In addition, they also used the World Eaters and the Dreamers to devour any planet that had gone beyond saving you updates tnvel/by.com. Felix might not have participated in the war with his main consciousness, but he was sure of commanding the Void Army to give the demons a hellish time and save as many citizens as possible. Demon King, we still found no news about Maxwell's whereabouts. He is in hiding, which is somewhat unexpected due to his status. High Chieftain Lockhawk reported with a solemn tone. He was standing underneath a daunting 5 meters tall throne, radiating a palpable aura of malevolent authority that could shake the core of the most stalwart individuals. The seat itself was covered with a dark crimson velvet cushion, giving a deceptive impression of comfort. The velvet, however, had a sinister sheen, and its plush texture felt oddly warm to the touch, almost like living flesh. Demon King Lucifer was sitting on it with legs folded and hands placed on his kneecaps, seemingly in a meditation session. This throne was situated in a ruined royal hall that used to belong to a centaur empire, but now, the entire planet was covered in a crimson hue and demons roamed everywhere, seeking whatever remained of purities to feast on. Lucifer and his subordinates had taken it as a temporary base in the past month. I suggest we prioritize demonizing his human race as he will never stand back and watch them suffer. Clan Head Igos suggested with a wicked gaze. He started an entire war against 3 races to protect them. Seconded. Clan Head Azastirth supported with a cold tone. Because they had turned to demons, their hatred toward Felix multiplied 100-folds and they desired his death more than anything. Lockhawk was humiliated during his fight against Felix and while he seemed to have let it go and turned a new page, his demonization had brought those evil thoughts back to the front. There was no need to mention the clan head's reasoning as they were still livid by Felix stealing the Elder Dragon's royal gemstone. Do it. Lucifer ordered without bothering to open his eyes. We won't let you down. High Chieftain Lockhawk bowed for a moment before taking his leave with the others through a spatial portal. Did I come too hard on him and end up spooking him into hiding forever? Lucifer knitted his eyebrows. It can't be, my other half isn't this cowardly. He will show up sooner or later. Lucifer's danger sense tingled, forcing him to open his eyes and stare through the non-existent ceiling. From the quietude of the red heavens above, a shimmering, celestial ice dagger plunged earthward. It was an ice meteor, an icy crystal boulder glimmering with an unearthly, iridescent light, as though a fragment of the aurora borealis had been cast down from the sky. Boom! In one cataclysmic instant, the ice meteor crashed into the royal hall, the impact resonating with a deafening thunderclap that reverberated throughout the fallen empire. The already ruined hall exploded into shards and fragments, an eruption of marble and splintered wood, swallowed by an expanding cloud of chilling frost and stinging ice shards. Who's there? In one piece, Lucifer emerged from underneath the rubble as he was covered in potent evil energy. When it touched the ice meteor, it turned red in color and kept releasing a creepy fog. It wasn't easy to track you down. Fenrir dropped down from the sky in his werewolf form while completely covered in chilling air. He seemed even more menacing than usual. Based on your element, werewolf form, and intense aura, you must be the ice primogenitor, Fenrir. Lucifer remarked with an intrigued tone. Now that you know, save us the trouble and surrender yourself. Fenrir said expressionlessly, a friend of mine has prepared some fun time for you. I have no idea what you are talking about, but my people have told me that you belong to the same Asgardian faction as my other half. Was he the one sending you? Lucifer asked. I take that as a no. Straightforward as always, Fenrir didn't bother spending another second talking with Lucifer. With an icy aura radiating around him, Fenrir stood tall, his figure composed of crystalline blue and white, an entity edged from pure frost, his eyes glowed with a cold, predatory light as they fell upon Lucifer. When Lucifer saw that look, he understood that their conversation had finished and started emanating ominous energy, causing the air around him to shimmer with heat and palpable malice. Does Lucifer even have a shot? Asna asked with a look of anticipation at the sight of those two primal forces poised for combat. She was watching it with Felix and the rest of the tenants through Fenrir's consciousness link. He has zero chance of defeating Fenrir even if he was given 100 million years more of training. Thor smirked. When it came to combat, Fenrir had the most experience of us all as he lived his entire life in conflict. Boom! The moment he finished speaking, Fenrir and Lucifer's confrontation began with the ferocity of a storm. Lucifer took the lead, his form streaking across the battlefield like a flaming meteor. In response, Fenrir growled, his voice echoing through the ruins as he raised his paw, summoning a blizzard of chilling snow. But Lucifer was prepared. He channeled his demonic energy, corrupting the icy onslaught into a storm of swirling, hellfire. Then, he turned around and sent it toward Fenrir. The sky burned, and the icy constructs around them seethed with an unholy light, morphing into ghoulish figures of demonic fire, their hissing and crackling filling the ominous silence. Not bad. However, Fenrir was not deterred. He wielded his ice manipulation, pushing it to the limits. The world around them continued to freeze, a field of pure frost advancing toward Lucifer. But as it crept closer, Lucifer summoned a vortex of his corrupting energy, directly clashing against Fenrir's onslaught. A blinding explosion of steam and smoke erupted as the extreme cold met the fiery demonic energy, tearing through the battlefield. The fight was a cataclysmic dance between fire and ice, time seeming to stop and surge at their will. The demonic empire around them shivered and burned in their wake, succumbing to their immense powers. Truly, a saga was written in fire and ice amidst the ruins of a once grand royal hall. He is really holding up with his peculiar fighting style. Asna commented. The ability to turn elements into his own side, it's too powerful. Felix nodded with a stern expression. He could see that Fenrir's most powerful ice abilities kept returning to him in a different color each time. It was immensely annoying, and even though he wasn't the one fighting Lucifer, he could already see that he would make him go through hell. He is good for a demon, I give him that. But... Thor shook his head, it's not enough to defeat Fenrir. In the heat of the battle, Fenrir took a step back, his cold, predatory eyes narrowing at Lucifer, who stood proudly amidst the fiery remnants of his demonic power. It's been fun while it lasted. It's time to end this. The air between them crackled with tension as Fenrir raised his head, a chilling howl cutting through the chaos, resonating with an icy threat. Suddenly, the world itself seemed to take a breath, an eerie silence falling over the battlefield as every flame flickered uncertainly. The crimson sky appeared to dim, as though the sun itself was cowering before the impending power of Fenrir's ultimate ability. Fenrir drew upon the deepest parts of his essence, the air around him turning so cold it seemed to shimmer. A whirl of ice and snow, harsher and colder than any earthly winter, swirled around him, the snowflakes hanging still in the air as if time itself had halted. Then, with a final, resounding howl, he unleashed it, the absolute zero. A wave of incomprehensible coldness, a frost unlike any other, erupted from Fenrir. It surged towards Lucifer, engulfing everything in its path. The icy wave froze the fiery battlefield, the demonic flames hissing and sputtering as they were extinguished and entombed in ice. The once molten, flowing rivers of lava turned into static sculptures of obsidian, encapsulated in a sheen of frost. Even the evil energy in the air seemed to crystallize, the corrupted elements halted in their tracks, succumbing to the freezing cold. Lucifer barely had a moment to react before the absolute zero seized him. His demonic energy flickered, trying to fight against the tide of frost, but it was too late. His movements slowed, his fiery eyes widened in surprise, then, everything stopped. Lucifer, the embodiment of fire and malice, was frozen in time, his form encased in a perfect tomb of crystal-clear ice, a statue of stunned defiance under Fenrir's icy dominion. Even if he wanted to escape, there was nowhere as the world held its breath after Fenrir's ultimate ability froze everything into a timeless state. The once crimson sky was now a frozen panorama of ice, the demonized empire an icy wasteland. Every flame, every movement, every flicker of life was caught in an eternal tableau of frost. Time and life on the planet stood still, held captive under the absolute zero, marking Fenrir's icy triumph over Lucifer. Dear goodness! Felix, Asna, and Candace were seen staring with stunned expressions at Fenrir, who was the only one moving in this timeless frozen world. When he reached the frozen Lucifer, he placed him inside an icy blue tomb and threw him in his divine spatial ring. Then, he took off outside of the planet and sped away, leaving behind him an entire planet halted in its orbit. 1324 One of the greatest cheats in the universe. I got defeated again. Ultimate abilities are really something else. Lucifer thought to himself as he revisited his epic fight with Fenrir. It didn't seem like he was worried in the slightest about being captured and held inside a spatial ring. It was understandable, as he could free himself anytime he wanted by simply giving up on this body and getting born again anywhere with evil energy. He didn't even require DNA presence like the rest of the demons. Mother told me that primogenitors won't be easy to handle, but I never thought they would be this overpowered. If I want to defeat them, I need to create my own ultimate ability. Lucifer sighed. If only it was this simple. Lucifer had learned from his mother that each primogenitor had taken eons of their time focused on creating their ultimate abilities. He might have never known about their power before, but now that he experienced 2 ultimate abilities and didn't survive them, he figured out that it was going to be extremely tough for him to create his own ultimate ability. Wait a moment. I don't need to waste my time on such a thing when my other half seems to possess multiple ultimate abilities. Lucifer suddenly smiled. When I merge with him and become one, I will obtain everything that he owes. With his arsenal of ultimate abilities, my gifts, and the Ascension power-up, I will be unstoppable. While one would get disheartened by 2 defeats in a row, Lucifer wasn't bothered that much as he learned from all of his experiences. Such an attitude was born from his immortality, as his confidence would never crack even with hundreds of defeats. Now, do I escape from this or see through it? Lucifer's focus returned to his current unfavorable situation. Besides his thoughts, he couldn't move a single thing. So, the only way for him to escape was by abandoning this body. He said he will be taking me to a friend. It might be my other half. In the end, Lucifer decided to stay put in captivity in hopes of meeting with Felix. A couple of days later. Inside one of Lady Sphinx's temporarily movable laboratories. Is he still there? Lady Sphinx asked. Yes. Fenrir nodded as he expelled Lucifer from the spatial ring. He was still in an ice coffin while suffering under absolute zero, making it impossible for him to do anything but watch. He isn't here. When Lucifer looked around him and noticed no presence of Felix, he couldn't help but get displeased. Looks like he hoped for Felix to be here. Lady Sphinx reasoned from reading the emotions in his eyes. We don't know if he didn't free himself because he couldn't, or he was using this chance to get close to Felix. Whatever it is, you have to be fast. J.A. Ermungandr warned. I know. Without an ounce of hesitation, Lady Sphinx created a tiny sand needle and decreased its size until it entered the quantum universe. Then, she gave a slight head nod at Fenrir. Fenrir removed the ice coffin, exposing Lucifer's frozen body in the open. It seemed like the chill radiating from his body was capable of freezing anything near it in time. However, the sand needle wasn't affected by either the coldness or the time-freezing effect, as the laws of physics were different in the quantum universe. Through using her quantum vision and fine control, Lady Sphinx guided the sand needle within Lucifer's body before enlarging its size until it positioned itself inside the nucleus of one of Lucifer's 100 trillion cells. Lady Sphinx used the passive, senses sharing, allowing her to transfer her senses to the sand needle and then record all of Lucifer's DNA content. This was the same passive that Felix unlocked when he was using her bloodline, though, the utilization was completely different. Reading DNA code, done. It took her barely a split second before she recorded everything and pulled back to the real world. Did they do something to me? Lucifer knitted his eyebrows as his guts kept tingling that something wasn't right. But, he neither saw nor felt anything. The entire process took less than a second and it happened in a totally different world. Staying here is a waste of time. Knowing that Fenrir would not release him from his captivity, Lucifer found no reason to remain around those two. Under the surprised looks of Fenrir and Lady Sphinx, Lucifer's eyes turned dim all of a sudden. Did he give up on this body? Fenrir asked. Must be. I feel no presence of either a consciousness or a soul. Lady Sphinx said, let me confirm it first. Lady Sphinx did the same thing with the needle and found out that Lucifer's DNA had collapsed somehow even when it was frozen in it. This made her understand that if they cancelled Fenrir's ultimate ability, Lucifer's body would either disappear or turn into evil energy. Cancel it. Fenrir did as he was told, and as she expected, Lucifer's body became a mist of evil energy that rushed in their direction like a ravished dog. Lady Sphinx waved her hand and contained the evil energy inside a green sand sphere for a few moments until the evil energy was absorbed completely by it. Interesting, the more I study him the more I realize that Lucifer's true identity isn't anywhere close to other demons. Lady Sphinx said. You mean he isn't really a demon? Felix raised an eyebrow in surprise as he watched the situation unfold from a consciousness-link mirror. On the opposite. Lady Sphinx dropped a bombshell. I believe that he is the true demon and the rest are nothing but a byproduct. This left everyone confused as they couldn't imagine those demons being anything more than demons. I have a theory that needs testing. Lady Sphinx smiled as her fingers danced on a holographic screen, typing hundreds of code lines that seemed like gibberish in everyone's eyes. While Felix wasn't too knowledgeable about the subject, he knew that she was actually writing Lucifer's genome by hand. Just a human genome contained more than 3 billion letters into this day and age. No one managed to completely decipher every single letter and its function. One could only wonder how complex Lucifer's genome would be. With this, Master can attempt to create a clone of Lucifer and run her experiments on his body to find out the truth. Felix thought to himself. He kept repeating that you are his other half over and over again. Do you think it's possible that you guys might share some similarities in your DNA? Asna wondered. He does look like me, so it's not far-fetched. When you manage to create his clone, give me a piece so I can restart my hunt. Fenrir informed before taking off to the sky. He wasn't tasked to just kill Lucifer once and leave it be, but make his life a living hell until the day Felix finished his training and dealt with him properly. Ups to day T from N0/V/LB and /.co/M. If only Lucifer was able to bleed, neither Fenrir nor Lady Sphinx would have gone through this much trouble to just get some of his DNA. But, during his battle, Lucifer either didn't get wounded or when he was injured, he expelled evil energy instead of blood. With Fenrir equipped with a powerful scent of Lucifer, he would be able to track him down through his insane sense of smell as long as they were in the same galaxy. As a primogenitor from the wolf species, not a single primogenitor could compare to him in this department. While Lady Sphinx and Fenrir were dealing with Lucifer and the SG Lions taking care of the spreading demonic plague, Felix could be sitting in a mediation position while having more than hundreds of runic pages in front of him written in a hazy transparent glow. Those were the runic sequence needed to learn and master to activate the infamous lesser time spell, time flow delay. He was staring at those runic letters through none other than his wisdom eyes. As he stared at them, Selphie's last words before she left the galaxy resounded in his mind. Remember, the key to mastering time spells isn't memorization. You might have gone away with it with the space element and other less complex elements, but time spells runes are much more complex, and memorization and repetition will merely help you learn the spell but not master it. As much as I hate to admit it, it all depends on your comprehension of runes, and if your comprehension is extraordinary, you will be able to create a great connection with the runes and they will respond to you. If it's lacking, no amount of hard work will help and my teachings won't be too useful since each one has their own unique comprehension of runes and it can't be copied. Runes might seem like nothing but mere letters created out of elemental particles, but I firmly believe that they are alive and you should treat them as such. This was Selphie's last lesson with Felix after finding out that he had finally decided to give time spells a chance. As she mentioned, her teachings wouldn't really help Felix that much if his comprehension was lacking. Right now, Felix had proven to have an amazing runic familiarity with time runes, a cheat method to forcefully master spells through repetition and hard work, but his comprehension was always deemed trash compared to even other elves. This was the reason Felix was delaying learning about time spells, as he didn't want to waste his time on something unmasterable. But now? This is really one of the greatest cheats I have ever seen. Felix commented with a wide grin as he used his wisdom eye to simplify the runic sentences, allowing him to comprehend their content on a much easier level. It was like turning abstract algebra into solving linear equations in terms of difficulty for a mere high school student. The student still had to be the one solving the problem, but he would be doing it on a simpler difficulty at his own level. 1325 One of the greatest cheats in the universe. 2. Before Lord Shiva taught Felix how to use his wisdom eye, his thoughts were consumed by a labyrinthine web of mysteries and complexities whenever he read the time runes. He found himself lost in a torrent of contemplation, seeking to unravel the profound implications and hidden truths concealed within these arcane symbols. But now? He delved deep into the labyrinthine depths of knowledge, unraveling the enigmatic patterns etched upon these ethereal symbols. The whispers of time have permeated his thoughts, guiding him toward a profound revelation that both exhilarated and unnerved him. I have no idea how that monster can even begin to understand something like this on her own. Felix thought to himself as he envisioned Selphie. With each intricate line and intersecting curve, he had come to comprehend the essence of temporal manipulation, the power to reshape history, and the delicate threads that weave the tapestry of existence. It was all written in the runic codex for everyone to see, but no one was capable of extracting such knowledge besides Lady Yggdrasil and Selphie. The magnitude of this understanding was both awe-inspiring and humbling, for he held within his grasp the key to altering the course of destinies and unlocking the secrets of the universe itself. But such power did not come without consequence. As he meticulously deciphered the time runes through his wisdom eye, he witnessed the delicate equilibrium upon which the fabric of time rests. The very act of tampering with temporal currents could unleash chaos and upheaval, tearing asunder the natural order of events. The weight of responsibility pressed upon him, urging caution and contemplation in every decision he made. It's like a guiding book to use a time spell instead of being merely a sequence to activate it. Felix knitted his eyebrows with a solemn tone. Selphie said that the key to mastering time spells is through creating a connection, and that connection can't exist without comprehending them first. I realize what she means now. The complexities Felix had unraveled have revealed the fragile interconnectedness of all moments, the intricate dance of cause and effect that governed his universe. Such powers could and should never be accessible to the public, which was the reason why mastering time spells required a connection with the time runes. It's like I have to seek their approval. Felix said, the only way for that to happen is to show that I have comprehended the message and will be responsible with every time spell utilized. If Selphie was right in her assumption that elemental particles were alive and could decide whether to allow one to use them or not, then he had to give it the appropriate approach even when it sounded somewhat mad. It's not confirmed and there is no way to confirm it, but her assumption does have some logical premise to it. Lady Sphinx explained, I believe anyone using the Universal Codex to manipulate elements has absolute control over them whether they were alive or not. But, those using Runic Codex and Divine Codex to manipulate them don't have equal authority. This is the reason why elements such as time, space, void, etc. seem to have a massive learning curve compared to other elements. But, this is all nothing but an unconfirmable theory. Whether it's true or not, it seems like it's working. Felix commented as he sensed the time runes responding to him after comprehending their message. It was hard to describe the feeling, but he was certain that he had made a massive advancement. With my wisdom eyes, I won't even need to use my other cheat method to master those spells at a reasonable duration. Felix smiled widely, I have a feeling that I can even decipher the Runic Codex and create new space/time spells. Hold your horses and master the already known spells first. Thor said. Chck for us tirizon no/v/l/bin. C0m. I will. With a faint chuckle, Felix returned to his practice, hoping to master this lesser time spell in a few years at best. He had made a deal with Lord Shiva that he wouldn't come out of the galaxy until the day he was satisfied with his progress. It might take a decade, century, or even millennia on the outside universe, and it was up to Felix to convince him of his results as soon as possible. Space/time spells mixed with wisdom eye, will it be possible for him to create spells on a higher level than omnipotent spells? Lord Shiva thought to himself as he watched Felix busting his ass to master the runic sequence. The future might not be as bleak as I thought. 6 decades later in the outside universe. The once thriving SG Lions territory now stood as a haunting testament to the devastating aftermath of a universal demonic invasion. More than 20% of territories with hundreds of thousands of planets had been transformed into a desolate wasteland, marred by the scars of destruction and chaos. Ruins stretched as far as the eye could see, a shattered remnant of what were once bustling civilizations. Scorched surfaces stretched out in all directions, bearing the marks of rampant infernal energies that ravaged the land. The once vibrant flora now withered and decayed, the once rich soil tainted by a sickly hue. Cries of lost souls and distant echoes of battle hung in the air, a haunting reminder of the horrors that unfolded in this once prosperous domain. 6 decades was a long period of time as it represented 6 great resets. Felix had missed them all as he was still in seclusion inside the Elemental's galaxy even though more than 6,000 years had gone by in there. My king, I have just received news that we have lost another solar system inside the Bardo Empire. The casualties estimates can reach up to 70 billion citizens. Candace reported with a distressed tone as she stood in front of Felix's clone. We lost 30 billion humans in total last year and now we are starting the new year with 70 billion more casualties. Felix gritted his teeth with a look filled with nothing but absolute hatred. Is it possible to rescue some of them at least? Our forces are stretched too thin and unlike us, those demons multiply through our own people. Cadance sighed. She didn't have to say more for Felix to understand that those 70 billion citizens were as good as lost. The worst part? When turned into demons, it meant there would be more than 70 billion new lesser demons seeking purities to keep their rationality intact. When they failed to do this because everything and everybody had already been demonized, they would turn into immortal humanoid animalistic demons. At that point in time, Felix could do nothing but send a world eater or a dreamer void creature to devour their planets and at least end their misery. It might seem weird that demons were dominating the SG Alliance even with their technological differences, but Lucifer's involvement really changed the entire narrative. That's because all lesser demons under Lucifer's direct control were capable of keeping their elemental manipulation and memories. Now, imagine if he had demonized an army of space worms and other powerful races or even utility races such as witches and dwarves. Space worms could easily create wormholes and portals straight inside the targeted planets and send waves of demons into them, avoiding space battles completely. It was a known fact that the moment demons stepped foot on a planet, it would belong to them in less than a day if they weren't stopped. At the very beginning, the SG Alliance and all races were capable of protecting themselves from said invasions, but Lucifer had decided to target the highly profiled targets like race leaders and made them his subordinates. With such high targets switching to the other side, the invasions kept getting easier and smoother for the demons until the SG Alliance began losing their grip on the war bit by bit. In fact, there were a few inner circle races that had fallen almost completely from top to bottom in the past 6 decades, such as orcs, giants, Lonians, and more. With such grave losses and the entire SG Alliance seemingly on a path of extinction, most entertainment platforms were shut down including the SG platforms. Because the platforms were shut down, the race's ranks were frozen until the war ended. Though it was still possible to earn SG points, and right now, the best method to get them was through slaying demons. This allowed the players to offer their services to fight off the invasion and get paid for it, which created a new occupation called Demon Hunters. Selfie, Bodadi, Olivia, Noah, the Executioneers, WoW/Nero, Disfigured Beauty and many other names had risen to the occasion and made themselves known universally wide with their hunting records, especially Noah and Olivia, as those two made everyone question if they were truly human. While Felix's friends were popping off in a good way, his name on the other hand was being dragged across the mud in the past decades. It was understated as Felix never made a public appearance to promise the end of the invasion or even showed himself to participate personally in helping the people. If it wasn't for the fact that his Void Nation was offering the best possible help and considered a true savior, his title as Grand Supreme would have been denounced by the public a long while ago. But Felix knew that it wouldn't be long before he lost everyone's trust if he remained hidden for much longer.